Hey guys, Anthony here. Let me know if you want to do something with them horses. Maybe I could help.
Well, we know you got several horses at the house, man.
Yeah. All I have is a bucket and a mop to clean up everybody else's.
Be careful now. We on National Zoom TV.
I know.
So Anthony, you want us to bring everybody over to your house to ride the horses, or what you want?
No, I can bring them to wherever you want. All I have to do is just look into it. I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah. You know, Sam, Samino got some riding background, man. I remember Samino's, if I remember correctly, they used to be Caucus along with the Frisbees.
Right.
Afternoon, everyone.
And here come Cowboy
JC.
Listen to the call.
What's going on, DB? JC?
How are you, buddy?
Hey.
All is well.
Good to see everybody's smiling faces on a beautiful, beautiful day.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Still a little chilly for me. I got to be honest. It's like we're almost into May,
Hey,
and
man.
the lens is just on a rise a little bit.
Go back outside now. It's like jumped up another 5 degrees.
Yeah,
Did
it's
it?
about 70,
Yeah.
72 out there right now. Gorgeous.
Yeah, I was out there watering the plants earlier, and it was chilly, and then I just went out. Nicholas is at her birthday party, so at the Bordentown Creamery, so it's warm.
We did our stream cleanup and it was perfect.
There you
Oh,
go.
beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah.
Always a good day to clean.
Yes, it is.
We took credit for the weather, so I said a prayer.
We'll keep it all day long, all weekend long, hopefully.
I don't know. We're going to be that lucky, but it's a good thought.
There you go.
We actually had tremendous turnout. We always have a good program, a good activity, but we had more people than we've ever had. They tell us at the watershed we had the highest turnout of any event they've been doing as well. So I think people want to be outside doing stuff, doing good stuff. So with their neighbors.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They just want to get back to doing what they used to do.
Yeah.
And see people.
Yeah.
Hey, Mayor, I was on a call with Jay earlier today. That kid is wicked smart, man.
Yeah, he's a really smart kid.
I love that young man. We're working on some things together.
Yeah, we're very proud of him. I was hoping, to be honest, that he'd base in town more because, you know, he's a comer for us in terms of local politics, too.
Yep.
So, but, you know, we're thrilled about his Washington position, and, you know, he certainly worked hard for that, so.
Yeah, well, he's doing some stuff that we're going to be working on here in the county, and I'm really excited about it, some of that work. And I'm working with some other folks to really try and push civics statewide. So Youth in Government, Model UN, and I'm working with the YMCA statewide to do that as well. I was on the phone with the gallery classes yesterday out in Hamilton, and those young people were just ecstatic. One, they asked the question, hey, look, do you support civics, and what are you going to do about it? And so we're doing some work in that area. There's so much opportunity right now, and if we can just get our heads around it, our hands around it, we can make an impact with all these really, really smart young people.
Yeah,
We have a student membership program in East Windsor, and that's where we found Jay. He got involved with us governmentally in East Windsor. He was one of our student members on the Environmental Commission, and that's where we first got to know him. And we've got several dozen of the high school students who, you know, we've got involved with our various volunteer boards, and they sit on the boards, you know, just like the adults, and they bring their background and their school stuff, and it's been a tremendous experience. But, you know, that was where he first got involved, and then he, you know, got involved locally in our politics groups. But that's a great, you know, way to, you know, find some of those ways to go into the high school and take advantage of the interest and the enthusiasm.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, that you've got a lot of success stories that way. I know that Hamilton has one of their school board members. He got elected right out of high school. And I remember speaking to him 2 years in a row in the gallery class, and he said that's what really ignited him. If you look at Jarrell Blakely, when he was 15, I took him to the Legislative Black Caucus meeting that was happening in Trenton. He got every legislator's card and visited every legislator within that 4-month period of time that was in the room. So if we can catch young people when they're young and ignite them, public service is in their future because they get bitten by that bug.
It's how I got started, gallery class and governor's school and the American Legion Boy State, so. And it was
That applies.
Well, we're glad that everybody was well trained in Mercer County and that we're moving in the right direction. So we're going to get started with our meeting this morning. And good morning and welcome to this special CCABC monthly meeting. In terms of trying to prepare for this, I sort of reflect on some of my own experiences relative to being an organizer and being a collaborator. And several things come to mind. One, some of you don't know, but I used to be the ball boy for Princeton University when Bill Bradley was there. And one of the things that I've learned from Brad's over the years is that there are 3 Ps that folks ought to engage with from a political perspective. And those Ps are people, programs, and politics. And you can assess almost anything by putting those 3 Ps into play. As a business person and having a corporate background and a nonprofit background, there's something called a corporate planning process. And so if folks try to work together, one of the things that they do, whether it's a retreat or sit down in executive session, is to be able to say what you like about somebody, what you dislike about somebody, and then what we need to do to work together to be successful so that we can be authentic and moving forward. And then lastly, what I've tried to do is in any collaborative process is to look at the hindsight, the history of the relationship. And let's take, for today's purposes, the county and the municipalities. What is the hindsight? What is the history of the relationship? How have we worked together historically? And then the current situation. What are we doing now? What is the pandemic done? What is the issues that are on the table? And then foresight. How do we use today's meeting? How do we use all of the collaboration and the communication going forward to make sure that we're doing a hell of a job in serving the citizens of Mercer County? So today we want to do several things. First, we want to get a brief understanding of what the American Recovery Act is and could do for New Jersey residents. Secondly, we want to hear from state assembly leaders on their thinking on how these dollars should or could be spent in the capital city area. Thirdly, we want to hear from our county commissioners on their thinking on how those dollars can be utilized at the county level. Fourthly, we'll hear from our Mercer County mayors and municipal administrative leaders on how that money can assist local Mercer County municipalities and towns. And finally, but not least, we'll recognize a former mayor, Trenton mayor, and Mercer County commissioner, the term was freeholder in his era, Douglas H. Palmer, for his service to Mercer County residents and to hear the testimony on his impact and legacy. Last week, we had a good, instructive, and constructive conversation on Black life, Black culture, Black personalities, Black minds, Black survival, and we did that through film. Well, today we're going to look at all the lives in Mercer County and how the stimulus dollars will be impacting the daily lives of all Mercer citizens. But before we get started, I want to thank Commissioner Sam Frisbee and his staff for assisting with the Zoom discussion and to the Zoom audience and participants for committing your time for this gathering. We also have a few people on this call, so we will keep your mute buttons on to minimize all noise. I will moderate and guide us through this meeting. I will recognize and introduce each speaker and pose any question to be asked. There will be no direct Q&A for our speakers. The way a question is posed by typing it into the chat room, and I will recognize that question and the person answer. And so with that, we'll start with our remarks, and our first introduction, as always, to our Commissioner, the Honorable Sam Frisbee. Commissioner.
Thank you, JB. And thank you to the electeds and the folks that are on this call. When John and I, each month we kind of sit down and we say, okay, what do we think we should be talking about at the caucus this month? And when we saw that the stimulus dollars had come out, we said, this is a great opportunity. This is actually probably our New Deal moment in Mercer County, right? And, we've never seen this amount of money flushed into communities like this. And we want to make sure that we don't mess it up and that we have a plan. But what was more important to me, because, I mean, we, as a county commissioner, of course, we want to look over the full county, and I talk to the mayors all the time. They're the ones on the ground doing this hard work. And we should be there in some way, shape, or form, so supporting what they're doing. It kind of reminds me of a story when I was head of Parks and Recreation for Doug. I started getting some really nasty calls from some residents who were saying, hey, look, you guys cut the trees on one side of the street. We've been on the list for months, and you didn't cut our trees. What's the problem? And then as I had my staff research a little bit more, I found out that it was actually the county side that was being cut. And on the other side, it was the city, and those trees didn't get cut. And when I called Aaron, I said, hey, look, if we could just talk, I'll send my crews out there when you send your crews out there. That way we're doing it in conjunction, and we have a whole street that looks nice, not one part of the street that looks nice and the other part of the street kind of looks ragged. It really is about how we look at how we implement these things. And so I was hoping when JB and I talked that this would be a generative conversation, right? That we could talk about what some of our aspirations are. We all recognize that they have not set the guidelines for what the money is supposed to be used for. But there are some hopes and aspirations that each one of the towns have. And if the money is set and you can use it for those things, if there's an opportunity that there is some intersectionality between what the municipalities do and the county could do, then we need to be, as commissioners, pressing the administration to say, we know that this is what some of the towns want. How do we help them and support them in this particular area? So, I'll finish with this. I was talking with Mayor Freed yesterday, and I know he'll be on the call a little bit later. And I was surprised when we talked about, the fact that I know that Mayor Milanoff and I talk about it all the time, just the affordable housing. But that was one of the first things that came out of his mouth. We got to get people being homeowners, whether it's in the city or even here. And trying to figure out how you do that. And I said, well, the Recovery Act money might not be able to be used for infrastructure like that, but if it is used for small business and you have small businesses that can actually do some of those builds, is there a way to create RFPs to do that? We need to be thinking innovatively in that manner and collaboratively across the board so that we can have collective impact with how this money gets rolled out. Thanks, JB.
Thank you. The American Rescue Plan, HR 1319, is a $1.9 trillion emergency release package to provide resources needed to address the ongoing COVID public health care and spur a strong American economy. The American Rescue Plan Act will increase the direct assistance to households and needs across America by $1,400 per person, bringing the total, including the $600 down payment enacted in December, to $2,000 for eligible recipients. It will extend and expand unemployment insurance to give families with children as well as childless workers a boost through enhanced tax credits. It will also extend enhanced SNAP benefits, providing funds to alleviate backlogs and respond to pandemic impacts on our food supply. We'll provide direct housing and nutrition assistance to families and expand access to safe and reliable child care and affordable health care. We'll provide nearly $130 billion to help K-12 schools safely open and address lost time in the classroom, including an estimated $5 billion for schools in Pennsylvania. It will dedicate nearly $40 billion to institutions of higher education, require institutes to dedicate at least half of their funding for emergency financial aid grants to students. It will provide resources to increase COVID-19 vaccinations across the country. It will provide support for small businesses, including $15 billion for COVID emergency grants, $7.2 billion in additional funding for payback protection program, $25 billion for a new program at the Small Business Administration. It will provide crucial resources to protect jobs for health and first responders. It will provide $20 billion for vaccine administrations. It will provide $46 billion for testing and contact tracing. We'll put $7.6 billion to hire an additional 1,000 full-time employees from public health workforces. These are all types of indications of how this money will be used. In all, New Jersey will get about $25 billion in some form of payment of the $1.9 million. $10 billion will go to state and local economies. Mercer County will get $71.3 million, and Trenton will get $73.8 million. So what does this all mean? And Sam, you hit upon it. Every municipality in every state, or every state and every municipality in that state, is developing some type of outreach or guidance committee to help them deal with some of the issues and concerns that are going to come up. And some of the most frequently asked questions have been, how can recipient governments use relief allocations from the state and local funds for recovery funds? How will state and local governments receive their relief? And then how will the monies be used once the monies come in? These are all the types of questions that we're going to be confronted with. These are all the types of innuendos and rumors and hearsay, because until something comes down that is real, until the Department of Treasury sends out something that is really concrete and formalized, then all we're doing is really speculating about how this can be done. But what's good about speculation at times, it also can give you a pathway. It also can put a spotlight on some of the intellectual property that not only the elected officials are thinking about, but the citizens, because as we know in Mercer County, with Princeton and Ryder and Trent State, we have a wealth of intellectual folks who've been well trained. So it's going to be very important that we make sure that we get some of the answers to the questions that we want to address. And so with that, we're going to first start with hearing from our state leaders who, as you know, money comes into New Jersey, will come to the state. So let's start with our state leaders first. I think Valina's going to be joining us shortly, but let's start with the Honorable Andrew Zicker, who has been one of my colleagues in this conversation. Andrew, can you give us your perspective on how you see this money being utilized from a state focus? Because we're going to ask the commissioners the same thing as well as the mayor. So we'd rather get the mayors are on the ground, the commissioners at 10,000 feet. So we're going to put you at 20,000 feet and ask if you would give us a perspective from your visual point.
Sure. Thank you, John. Thanks for inviting me to be a part of the conversation today, which is so critically important. I'll do my best to be at 20,000 feet. You know, the money, John, as you said, is going to be, and Sam said this too, an enormous amount with so many different people looking for how to spend this. I look at it as sort of four ways that we need to think about this money. And the first one is the immediate, right? We know that people are hurting, businesses are hurting, businesses are closing, our mom and pop shops are really hurting. So I think the first thing we do is look at where can this money be used for the immediate. Then I think the next thing is how can we be inclusive, right? We know, and John, you already mentioned it, that COVID has exacerbated enormous inequalities, economic inequalities, racial inequalities. Minority-owned businesses did not have the same access to loans that we saw some white-owned businesses have. So I think we need to put an eye on inclusivity as we look at where this new money is coming in. And then, and only then, can we start looking at the future. We have to look both future, how we can help prosperity grow in our communities, because money will come in now, but it doesn't have to be spent for a couple of years. And so how can we tie this in both to our future prosperity and what we're doing right now? Where is it that we have a program, community program going on where an infusion of money is going to take it to that next level? I think those are the four things at this 20,000, 30,000 foot view, John, which has got to guide every decision that we're making at the state level, county level, and municipal level.
You know, let's use Andrew as a guide. You did that within 3 to 4 minutes. So we're going to ask everybody to sort of stay within that 3 to 5 minute time frame so that we can be fair to all the many talented speakers who will be joining us today. Our next speaker is the Honorable Anthony Varelli. Tone, you want to talk to us not about the horses right now, but about the stimulus package and your thoughts on how that money could be utilized in the state of New Jersey and Mercer County specifically.
Thank you, John. John, actually, I'm on a farm right now anyway, and that's why I can't get on the video. I got a new phone, so whatever the case. But thank you for having me today. We have to make sure we get the money into the hands of the people that desperately need it. It's people first. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, but we can think outside the box as to where we can allocate new resources that we have for new things. I don't have to tell you, in the capital city, half the acreage is given to the county, state, and federal government facilities. There's no revenue coming in for them to pay taxes. We've worked together with the senator and Verlina with the Capital City Aid Program and Reed. We get $10 million for that. That's in the budget. But back in 2008, it was $38 million. So there's a heck of a shortfall there. But now we're here at a spot where, like, I think we can do something. We can continue to undo the distress that the city's still dealing with under the American Rescue Plan. That's almost $6.5 billion that the state of New Jersey will receive. You had mentioned $72 million for the county and $74 for the city. I think this money is direct and flexible funding that we need to pay the COVID-related expenses. Like Andrew said, the lost revenues, the critical services that we're short now of, and layoffs of essential workers that we have in our community. We need to provide the assistance to the residents and small businesses and deal with what we deal with in Trenton with the water infrastructure, broadband infrastructure. We got to look at everything from top to bottom. The funding is going to be a nice shot in the arm. And I think it's important that Reed has being a 12-person Trenton American Rescue Plan Advisory Committee. We need oversight on how they're going to spend this money, and I think he's very serious about it. He's got Brandon McCoy from Policy Perspective and our own great Janine LaRue and Dr. Ames Lopez from Trenton Health and Human Services. We need to help everyone. We need to make sure we have our mental health people in place because now there's a shortage of mental health providers as far as therapists and everything that we have to deal with because of COVID and all the other issues that popped up behind it. And I think the mayor's got a good team of an advisory level to help him look to where to spend the money. And then hopefully with guidance from us on the call in the legislature, we can really do something. We want every resident in the city of Trenton and the greater area to know that their voice really does matter and to be able to succeed no matter what we look like or where we come from or where we worship or how much money we have. Because right now, a lot of people don't have much money and we all need to pull together and look for not a handout, but a hand up to get this going. So I think the American Rescue Plan is going to help us realize that goal. And I know we're going to work together to do everything we can to make that happen in the legislature. And I really mean that. So I want to thank you for listening to me, John, for my brief remarks.
No problem, Anthony. We really appreciate that. The Honorable Dan Benson. Y'all call him Dan. I call him DB. Dan, you want to share your thoughts on your perspective. And what's good about this is that these folks who are speaking are coming from geographically different places in the county. So it's good to be able to hear perspectives from folks who know what they're talking about and who are also committed to public service.
Yeah, John, you're right. And plus, we all come from different, I think, backgrounds and life experiences, and we kind of bring that to the table. I think both what Andrew and Anthony mentioned about we got to help the people that are hurting. What are the short-term needs? But I also think about the New Deal. Much of the New Deal was there to address the Great Depression, but they built things that were still helping us today. And so, think about Social Security. The seeds of Medicare were born out of the New Deal as well, even though it took us a couple decades to get there. So what are the things we can do with the crisis and the money we have now to invest and to create systems that are going to help people for generations to come and really help us leapfrog beyond that legacy of leaving people behind, both from racism and from the inequities that we've kind of baked into society. Now's the time to wipe away those cobwebs and those horrible legacies and really jump forward. So I'm just going to give 3 examples. One is in transportation. We've done a great job in transportation of trying to build equity for our seniors and for our disabled. We do have some for workforce, but we need to do more. People should be able to get from A to B, whether it's for work, whether it's for childcare, or just whether healthcare or even just recreational purposes. People need to be able to get around, and it shouldn't matter whether you own a car or not, or have the right income or the right zip code. And so we need to use some of this money to figure out where the gaps are and invest in that infrastructure. Second, I think Anthony and someone else mentioned broadband infrastructure. My day job is in telecom. I've been tracking what the FCC has been doing and Congress has been investing in broadband right from the start. There is an emergency broadband benefit that's going to offer $50 a month. Before that, it was only $10. We're going up to $50 a month and $100 for a device out of the emergency broadband benefit. Here's the problem. It only lasts for a year. We need to work with our county and our municipalities in the state to make sure that the right to having broadband is the same as anything else for cell phones or phone system or heat or power. because that is what gives people access to jobs, access to healthcare with telehealth, access to so much of the information they need. We talked about civics at the beginning here from Commissioner Frisbee. You can't have civics if you can't be connected these days through the internet. So we got to get quality broadband out, working with our anchor institutions, our libraries, our schools, and our government, different levels of government and building. And then lastly, I think the other piece that I really think helps tie everything together is educational infrastructure. And thankfully, there is a lot of information and money that might be coming out of the infrastructure bill from the Biden administration. But also, it's not just about reopening. It's about reopening with buildings that are safe for our students. So we've got a long way to go there, but it's not just about K through 12. We're talking about fighting for eliminating debt for our college students. We got to, going forward, make sure they're not going to be stuck in debt in the first place. So we started with the County College Opportunity Grants, working with Governor Murphy. That's now in statute. He just last week announced the Garden State Guarantee, which is for 2 years more in a 4-year college, so that you can go 4 years in school and come out without debt. So we got to continue to make those opportunities into solid ground so that they can't be taken away in future crises. And then lastly, not college isn't for everybody. So we need to create, and working with Murphy administration is already doing that with the Department of Labor, what's called lifelong learning accounts. These are like the 529s that many people know for college savings. You can use that money now under the rules for apprenticeship programs, for training programs. Now, what if we put an amount of money for everybody into one of those accounts so that whether they're going back to school, whether they're going to get the training they need for that better job and higher pay, that they can dip into that account, and if they're putting their own money, the state matches them. So we're going to be doing a pilot later this year with lifelong learning accounts, and I'm looking forward to partnering with the governor to make these a reality. This can be a game changer, just as the changes in housing that we'll hear other people talk about, and the changes in healthcare that others will talk about. But I believe lifelong learning, getting people into better jobs, getting them the training they need, so that as the economy changes post-pandemic, we're ready to supercharge the economy, grow jobs, and put people in those income brackets that are going to allow them to generationally change their financial situation. So I'm going to stop there with my time limit. And John, thanks for the opportunity as always.
All right, thank you, Dan, and we appreciate the vision. And
You know how passionate I am.
Yeah, well, I know that. And so now, while we wait on for Lena to join us, I'm going to segue right into hearing from our county commissioners and to Nina and Ann and John and Lucy. Don't be mad at me for starting with Sam, because that's how I roll. So Sam, as the chair of the county commission, you want to sort of start that conversation relative to what's happening with the commission, and y'all starts relative to the money that's coming into the county and how that might be utilized. And what's good, interesting, is that y'all each represent a different geographic location, background. And so this is helpful for everybody, because this is how we collaborate. This is how we share time and talent and resources, and in this case, intellectual property. So it's good to know what other folks are thinking. So, Commissioner.
Thanks, JB. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to echo some of what the Assembly folks have said. One of the first things I think we need to do, because we need to get vaccines into arms, right? And so it's going to be really important. We need to take a look at pushing a vaccination campaign. I've talked with several mayors that have said, hey, look, we've gotten those people that are the easy, the low-hanging fruit. It's going to be a little bit more challenging to get this other group. And so we really need to spend some resources in a full-blown vaccination campaign right up front. That's one of the things that we really need to do now. The other thing that we need to do is, because we didn't get money through the CARES Act the way that the other counties did because of our size, we really need to try and stabilize some of our small businesses right now, right? And so that we can really help them. I know that Hamilton has a program that they were able to put together. We need to be able to help with that from the county perspective, and even put that on steroids in all of our towns. And then we need to look at some infrastructure opportunities, right? So there's some infrastructure that we could share in. I know that I think it's Trenton nor Hamilton have county library systems. They have their own library systems. And we have a couple of other towns. But I know with Trenton, when I talk with the administration about it, it's because of certain things. this could be a perfect opportunity to pull the Trenton library system into the county library system, one, pull a little bit off of their plate while still educating folks and getting a very strong library in the city, in our county. Not only that, but it also, because of its positioning, I've been talking with the college president about this. Our college doesn't have its own library in the city. That could be its library in the city because it is right next to the college, right? And so again, this is a way to get multiple impacts out of culling our finances together and thinking about it in a very different way. I love what Assemblyman Benson was talking about in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the internet and mesh networks. I mean, we had looked at the mesh networks before, a way to really get us on the grid, because right now we've got these individually siloed grids. And during this pandemic, we had to have, Comcast and AT&T and Verizon came out and they were putting infrastructure into some of the nonprofit buildings. But what if it was already on the light poles? What if we already had internet services that could engulf everything within a mile radius, and we're able to hang them on the light poles? We need to really look into an opportunity there. And then I would say, lastly, from the county's perspective, we need to figure out how to put our VOTEC program on steroids, right? Because every child is not going to college. Everyone doesn't want to go to college. But there's an opportunity for vocational school to be ramped up. And part of our challenge is that our vocational school, we're looking at it almost in the old model before internet, just a regular computer, right? So people come to our school in order to get ramped up in VOTEC. But many of these high schools used to have VOTEC programs. What if the county was able to partner with the towns and disaggregate and kind of put the VOTEC into their schools so that students didn't have to travel as far? And we could probably get more young people engaged in the VOTEC. So the educational prospect, the technology prospect, and the infrastructure prospect, we really need to be looking at that in the low-hanging fruit where we know that we're already making impact. That's where the county really needs to be.
So if y'all don't mind, Commissioner, the Assemblywoman just joined us, and I'd be remiss if I didn't go back to her because she rolls with Eddie Giddens, and Eddie Giddens is a bowler. And he told me if I didn't take care of her, he'd put me down in lane 6 and just, make me one of the pins. So I don't want that to happen to me. So would y'all please welcome the Assemblywoman Jackson, who will share her perspective. And your colleagues, Dan Benson and Andrew Wicker and Anthony Pirelli, did a good job of sharing their vision. Would you please share yours on how this money could be utilized?
Oh, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm going to make sure Ed don't do that, though. We're not going to put you down in lane 6. The vision that I have for the city to be able to utilize this money comes from our list of projects that we've been talking about for quite some time. Number one being our libraries, reopening them. We need an HVAC system. We need there's a substantial amount of work that has to be done to the East Trenton library out there. So we want to use those dollars to open it back up. We've applied for some state funding, and unfortunately, they didn't accept the projects because they weren't long-term. So having met with the Trenton Library's director and with the state library, we've come up with a list that they need these additional dollars for. So I think that would be a huge impact on the communities, the people that live there, to have access to libraries in their neighborhoods and to upgrade the systems that they need. They've done a phenomenal job with the children's room, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done to bring the library up to today's standards in terms of technology, heating, ventilation, windows, desks, chairs, and other things that other libraries have that we too want to upgrade and make sure that our community has the best that it can have. The other thing I think we could definitely use is for road and bridge repairs. As you drive throughout the city, some highways are being done, some county roads are being done, but I know everybody feels those bumpity bump, 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 and bumpity bump, bump, bump as you go down the street. So they did some roads streets, repairing them, but I think with a lot of the lead pipeline replacement program has really done a lot of damage that we need to repair coming in the city and out of the city. So logistically, the mayor can figure out, how he does that, but definitely a lot of our roads need to be repaired. The other is demolition. We have a lot of abandoned properties that still need to be come down. I know the mayor was working on a project to have possibly an internship program or an apprenticeship program, because we spend, it costs a tremendous amount of money to tear one property down. It's anywhere between $20,000 to $50,000. So if you figure we can have a substantial program to give skills to people to be able to do this, that can be transferable over to other things. So we have a plethora, so we can pick not just onesies and twosies, but sometimes there are areas that have been overlooked for so long. And I think that turns the conversation around when we're talking about redevelopment, and we can tell developers where they should go and not necessarily where they want to go, because this is how gentrification happens. This is how properties, areas begin to go down. And there's a lot of great potential here if we can get a clean slate and start over. There's areas throughout the city, and so we just have to be mindful about how we plan our future for the next 5, 10, 15 years. Trenton has a very old stock in housing, and so it's time for us to replenish that. And so some of the older homes are much more smaller. A lot of the neighborhoods don't have parking. At the time that they were built, you might have been lucky to have one car. Now, a family of 4, everybody has a car. So, and neighborhoods don't have enough for that. So we need to make sure that we allow for outdoor living space in the backyard to be able to enjoy outdoor living, have a driveway that can accommodate 2, 3, 4 cars, so that you're not, you want to park in front of your house, although, off-street parking is off-street parking. But when you have a vision about recommitting yourself to a new neighborhood or revitalizing that neighborhood, we cannot leave out parking. It's just one of those things now that has to be had, and we need to talk about housing that includes air conditioning, and it shouldn't be a struggle sometimes when we work with organizations about building housing without HVACs. That just doesn't make sense to me. You wouldn't do that in other areas. So anyway, other funding, fully funding our recreation department long term. We don't have enough of activities to make sure that our children and our youth and our young people are exposed to opportunities, not just here as the capital city, but throughout. And so transportation is a huge cost that needs to go when we want to take them places. We want to expose them to STEM. We want to expose them to the wind turbines that are coming. We want to expose them to manufacturing and business and Wall Street and all these other type of things, type of innovations that are out there. So, but we can't do that off of the small margin that we have. And so this money, we can definitely change generations to come if we plan it out and put it in a trust possibly, so that it's there long term, and no hands off. Nobody can touch that money. And then the other, I think those were just a quick couple of things that I think specifically for Trenton that we should do. And I'm sure my colleagues have touched on, if not the same things, a whole lot more. So I want to just thank everybody for allowing me to be here today, and just thank you. And let's see how we can move forward with all of these great ideas we have about this $73 million.
Thank you so much, Melina. We appreciate your time. And now our next speaker, going back to the county commissioners, is Ann Cannon. Ann?
Unmuted. Good
Okay.
morning, everyone.
Well, Ann, before you speak,
Yes.
for public consumption, let me, on behalf of the Capital City Area Black Caucus and so many citizens throughout Mercer County, thank you for your many years of service to the Mercer County Commission. And let's all of us give Ann Cannon a big hand to let her know how much we love her and appreciate her and we'll miss her guidance. So
Now you're starting me off crying. So,
that's all right. Sam and Nina and John and several others are crying as well. So, cry on.
oh my goodness. let me just say this. The tears I have shed since that convention have been tears of joy and gratitude to the people of Mercer and other areas who have reached out to me with love and thanks. And that has meant more to me than all those votes after my 41, including my condominium, running for office, 41 years of going to meetings and taking care of people. I'm part of me is relieved, as someone said, I bet you feel like a weight has been lifted. I said, yes, but I'm still the big sister, and I still care, and I still am a Democrat. And now my comments going forward on this topic, and thank you for having me today. And I hope and I do believe that the county administration will make the plan to use these funds one of diverse, inclusion, and outcome. They're putting together a plan. They're putting together a group. And I don't know how they're doing that. They haven't shared that with us, but I know they will be inclusive. We're there, and I think they know, and I have to trust them. In a nod to Earth Day, let's take a note of our Mercer County Community College solar project. They created training for solar jobs and relative types of jobs to create meaningful jobs in the climate-related fields. We know the current pandemic is not the first, nor will it be the last. We need to use some of this money to prepare and mitigate for future health and quality of life for all of our citizens. Let's be creative and pull in seemingly unconnected topics and areas. As was mentioned earlier, we have to be very out of the box. We have to be creative to be able to use these funds to help people. And I mean all people. We need healthy, self-sufficient citizens to move on to solve our future challenges. We have to solve food shortages, food deserts in our city. Those two things, and health, those two things, I believe, are what we need to help our citizens. Children can't learn if they're hungry. We know that. Let's take care of that. These are things we should have taken care of a very long time ago in our country. We're still fighting issues that are hundreds of years old and inequities that remain. So let's take a moment to thank each other and to work together. I won't be here next year. I'll be here in the community, but I won't be on the board next year. But I believe that this board of former chosen freeholders and current county commissioners are good people you can trust, people you can have faith in, people who will be here to serve you. And I know each one of them has the best for Mercer citizens in their hearts. I hope you all get to know them, the new folks coming in. I don't know them, but I have to have faith in them because you chose them. So let's move on together for each other. And I am so proud of Sam Frisbee as our leader here in Mercer County and creator of this forum, along with you, John. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's keep moving. We got a lot of work ahead of us.
Thank you, Ann,
Thank you.
for those remarks. And again, let's give that gracious lady a big hand. Thank you so much, Ann. Our next speaker, again, y'all call him John Cimino. I call him JC, and that's not trying to put a symbolism on Jesus Christ, because we know he's not that, but he is competent and able and stable and very creative. Would y'all please welcome the Honorable John Cimino to the conversation?
From JC to JB, thank you, sir. Appreciate the shout out there. Good afternoon, everyone. Great to see so many of you. I think you always, we're trying the best we can to get back to a sense of normalcy and probably do this over at the Capital Area YMCA at some point, hopefully in the near future, with our chairman, Sam Frisbee, at his area. I think that, the common theme that we're hearing here this morning around how do we best deploy these dollars and resources within our communities, whether it's at the local, county, or state level. It's a reset, I believe, for us to be able to look at the areas that may not have had the investments that each of those communities, each of those governments have, been able to enjoy the past few years. For me, it's about communication and collaboration. The Commissioners Board has asked the county administration to have a seat on this commission or committee that the county executive is forming. And I volunteered our chairman this year, knowing he's wearing a lot of hats, but I volunteered our chairman this year. We need to make sure that the priorities of the administration directly also reflect the priorities of the Commissioners Board. We all come from different segments of our county. We all come from different backgrounds. And we need to make sure that the dollars that are coming into Mercer, that the dollars coming into our communities are deployed in a way that makes the most sense for our communities, whether it's, and you've heard the same theme, education, broadband, infrastructure, technology, getting shots into people's arms. It's vitally important that we have that communication and collaboration from the county level down. I think it was Chairman Frisbee who said about getting shots into people's arms. Let's understand that truly, at least I believe, in my opinion, we can't truly open up. We can't truly get a sense of normalcy back until we get herd immunity or vaccines into people's arms, which then will spike the opportunity at the local business level for our restaurants and our nonprofits and those that have suffered the last 13, 14 months under this pandemic. We all need to stand at the front of the line, raise our hands and tell people to be vaccinated in order for us to be able to get back to a sense of normalcy. Fantastic news released last night by the CDC and the federal government that the J&J vaccine can now start to be redeployed. Fantastic news. We all should be applauding that. We all should be making sure that our family and our friends, to me, this isn't a discussion of a political discussion about should we get a vaccine or not? Was this a made-up virus or not? The reality is that we are still seeing people's lives taken every day from this horrific disease. I still wake up every day and I see the governor's announcements, 21 people, 27 people, 30-some people. That is too many consistently every day to be impacting in a negative way our families and our communities and the deaths that we are still seeing. Until we get that under control, we're not going to be able to truly open back up as a society and get back to a sense of normalcy. And then take the dollars and the resources that are coming into our communities and deploy them in a way that resets county government, our local government, our school districts, and our state of New Jersey. So, John, for me, it's about making sure we've got that communication and collaboration. You have a fully committed Commissioners Board. I don't know how many of you tune in to our bi-weekly meetings now. There is a robust conversation every time we meet about what is the county doing to lead the way, where can we do better, how can we do better, and making sure that we're doing all the things that we can as county leaders to support our local businesses, to support our local mayors, and to support our local communities. So, John, I appreciate the opportunity to be with all of you this afternoon. As always, feel free to get in touch with me anyhow, somehow, some way to try and make us our communities better. So thank you, John.
Sam, when running Reed's campaign, initially there were so many candidates running, you know what I mean? A lot of black guys, Hispanic guy, and Reed. And we were sitting down in the office one day trying to figure out the message and the game plan for how we move forward in the midst of all these candidates. And so Kool and the Gang came on, Life is What You Make It. And so right away, I mean, you know me, I wear my glasses at times. I think I'm cool. So, but really, folks don't realize it's just keeping the sun out of my eyes, right? But the song came on, and I told these guys that if we're going to win this election, it's going to be because of Kool and the Gang. I'm cool, and y'all are the gang. Well, I see around you, Sam, with Nina and Lucy and John, that same concept, except that it's not me and a bunch of young white guys. It's me, it's you and a bunch of colleagues who have expertise in intellectual property and skills and background and access to resources. So you are definitely cool, but each one of them is cool also. So depending on which one is speaking, it's always Kool and the Gang. And so our next speaker is very cool, and that is Nina Melker, the Honorable Mercer County Commissioner. Commissioner Nina Melker, cool lady, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you so much, John. It's always a pleasure to be a part of this caucus. I enjoy the meetings each month. As everyone has said, I totally agree with all the comments, but I think what's key, and Commissioner Cimino talked about it, is that we know everyone needs a seat at the table. And this committee that, the county executive and his administration are forming, to me, is very key. And we are pushing, as has been said, to make sure that we, as a commissioner board, have a seat at the table. And quite frankly, we do want it to be our chair, Sam Frisbee, because we know he is the right one right now to represent us. He's really been an amazing leader this year for us. And we are fighting as much as we can, as Commissioner Cimino said, to make them understand, the administration, how key and important. We have a voice. It's important to us. And we want to make sure that we're taking all of this information that we're getting from the community and we're sharing it with them, because they have to listen. And as Commissioner Cimino said, communication is important, and it is part of the issue that we're having. And we're forcing and pushing, and we want that to happen. It's very important. As many of you know, I'm a banker full time. So if there's one thing I have learned through this pandemic, is the effect that it's had on small business. I had the pleasure and the opportunity to do 60 PPP loans for different people in the community. And there is a problem getting everybody, especially the very small business people, because banking is it becomes a situation where you actually are intimidated by it. And what we ask people to come to the table and bring, most people don't even understand and know. And that's a big piece of this. We have to get education out there to help small business, because when this happened and they were shut down and they were hurt, they didn't really know where to turn. They didn't know how to get that help. And we have to get that messaging out. To me, this money, a big piece of this money has to go out there to help small business, because without helping the small business community, we're not going to get this country back to where it is. It is major, major, major important. And as a banker, I get it. I see it every day. I have done what I can in my small way to help, but this is a bigger issue. And that, to me, is where I want to see, me personally, that's where I want to see this money go. So I agree with everything else that's been said. I'm taking the notes, because as far as I'm concerned, this information today needs to be given back to the county administration and our county executive. They need to hear us, and we need to do what needs to be done.
Thank you, Nina. As a matter of fact, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that we reached out to Brian and we asked him to come and be a part of this conversation, because we thought it was an opportunity to show that he was able and stable and lucid and could handle what's going on, because he's been taking a lot of hits lately. And so we felt that this was an opportunity and a missed opportunity, if I might say. But at the same time, talking about that committee, in the city of Trenton, they put on several city council people. The mayor's put on several city council people. I'm suggesting to y'all, not only the Commissioner Frisbee, but theoretically speaking, y'all are the oversight committee already. The county commissioners are the oversight committee already, theoretically speaking. And so, believe it or not, Brian doesn't have to create another structure. He has to really just work more collaboratively with those who have been elected leaders there that are within the bailiwick that y'all call the Mercer County Commission and the Mercer County Executive. So to me, Reed's thing was a little different. This is not necessarily different. But moving on, another cool lady who I misspoke in one of our last meetings and called her a Republican. She got mad at me and sent me an elephant and a jackass and everything and said, now you picked the right one because I'm a Democrat. So Lucy Walker, Walter, I am good to see you. Glad to see you. Would y'all please welcome the Honorable Democratic Commissioner from Mercer County, Lucy Walter.
Thanks so much. I just wanted to make sure that was clear, John, because Democrat is kind of what I do.
I know.
So I'm going to kind of move in a slightly different direction from my other commissioners, because I think Sam said it right. When this is a time for a reset, we have hundreds and hundreds of employees that work in corrections, that work in law enforcement. But when you look at our economic development office, it is teeny tiny. When you look at our health office, it is teeny tiny. We need to flip the script. We need to invest much more money in programs that provide housing for all kinds of people. We have young professionals, nurses, tradespeople. We have secretaries, administrative assistants who cannot afford to buy a house in Mercer County. We need to flip that script. We need to provide programs that assist with down payments, that assist with all of those needs to buy a house, to make you a homeowner in this county. We need to have business incubators so that young businesses starting out, they have the internet structure. They have the structure they need to get these businesses off the ground and going. We talked about broadband. I think that everybody understands that. We need to upgrade our wastewater plants. And how about our drinking water? This is the time to make sure that our kids are not living in houses with lead and drinking water that has lead in it. And then Trenton should be a place that people are flocking to live in. It does have some incredible housing, but we have to look at expanding access. So, you know, there's going to be, $2 billion given to Amtrak? It's not a whole lot, but we should look at some of that, looking to expand our lines north out of Ewing, out of the West Trenton train station. You know, can we expand that and then make the housing stock more valuable? Because when we push that housing stock up, it helps everybody in the city. We have a lot of people living there that should be able to purchase houses, not just rent. And we have to look at programs to provide that. So yeah, I think everything that's said, I absolutely agree with, but I think we need to really look at flipping the script. You know, we often say where we put our money talks about what we value. I think this is a perfect time on a whole lot of money, and where we put it is going to talk about what we value.
Thank you so much, Lucy. I appreciate that. You know, we got a couple minutes before we get to our mayors. Senator Turner, I see you on the call. Did you want a few minutes to say something, Senator Turner? She might be cooking then. We will catch up to her. She'll maybe get back to us, but she might be cooking. So, you know, Sam, we've heard from the commissioners, and what it says to me is that you got a good group of folks, man. I mean, John and Nina and Lucy and Andrew and I mean, y'all just have a good group. And at the state level, I mean, how does it get any better than Dan and Valina and Andrew and Anthony? The question is, in my mind, is that how often have y'all done this? How often have y'all had the state, the county, and the local mayors all meet to talk about how we do a better job of supporting and servicing each other, whether it's a regional conversation, whether it's a brainstorm conversation, or whether it's just a conversation amongst elected officials who love Central Jersey. I want to encourage y'all to continue this conversation. There are great thoughts here, and we haven't even got to the mayors yet. There's so much great thinking in this process. The intellectual property here is unbelievable. And so from a county level, and we're going to add on a couple new people, it sounds like we're in good hands. We're on a pathway. We see the bridge. We just need to make sure that folks are holding hands, holding each other, bringing each other across that bridge. And we're not looking for the promised land. We are looking for America to keep its promise to its people. And so having said that, we will go now to our mayoral conversation. You know, there's not a more vocal mayor. There's not a more inspiring mayor. There's not a louder mayor when it comes to East Windsor, when it comes to her community. And so she has made being mayor a passion, but she's also made being a leader a passion, and leader of the Democratic Party in the county. And so with that, who's going to talk about East Windsor and what's happened with their vision in terms of their inspirational approach to trying to use this dollars to be able to service all citizens there. And that is the Honorable Mayor Janice Marinoff. Mayor, welcome to the conversation, and please share your thoughts on what's happening.
Yeah, John, thank you so much. In fact, when you started, I figured you weren't beginning with me. You were going to someone else first. So thank you. That's very kind and gracious. And thanks for the opportunity here. Just a couple of general comments before I talk about some of our municipal thoughts. So we have been told to anticipate about $2.65 million in East Windsor based on the formula for the rescue plan. So I'm really gratified to hear many of the comments from our state officials, as well as the great advocacy that our county commissioners, Frisbee and Semino and Cannon and Melker, as well as Walter, have provided for us local officials in what has been really a challenging time. And, you know, you ask about forums, but, you know, one of the things I will say that has occurred as a result of some of the challenges and service delivery and addressing the pandemic is that we have actually been in contact, a lot of us, and, you know, groups and directly. Mayors have bonded in a way that, you know, I think has been a tremendous value in doing our business. I have spoken to the commissioners more in this past year than you know, over many other times. So the difficulties and the communication sometimes with the administration and some of the bumps have really, I think, brought a lot of us in really useful communication. So it is important, and I read about that commission too, and you know, there's a lot of money going to the county, so you know, we're going to hope that we get a voice and, you know, we have opportunities to hear the discussions, because, you know, a lot of the state and the county funds are going to be in some of the broader needs in our county, our state, you know, in education, the county college, healthcare, transportation, major infrastructure, rebuilding our health department and how we plan for health emergencies in the future. And we want to be part of those discussions. So in our towns, just to take it a bit further, is, you know, we're kind of where the rubber meets the road as well. You know, we get people calling us every day. We see people out every day in our communities. And so with respect to the funding, as everyone knows, they haven't set out a lot of the qualifications and parameters yet. But, you know, we, in general categories, we look forward to, first of all, obviously, we have budgetary needs. We do a lot of direct servicing to our community, you know, whether it is that we've had to step up in a lot of the health areas to do vaccinations and outreach. And, you know, we certainly want to fund that and make sure we continue to be able to do that. Our public works departments, all of our various community support departments, recreation, senior services, and so, you know, we've had to fill major revenue gaps, and we're going to have to continue to do that. And we want to make sure that we have robust programs, that we're out in the community, that everyone is getting access and well served in all of our various departments. And we are particularly concerned in that regard at our senior citizen populations, to make sure that, we're actually right now in the process of expanding our senior center. We service these seniors in East Windsor and Hightstown. We're a county nutrition site. We were happy to step up and be available for that. We have a transportation program that we provide for our seniors for shopping, for medical appointments, to get to the center, as well as to take advantage of a lot of health-related recreation, exercise, just socialization activities. So we want to build on that and be able to help with that. In recreation, we want to make sure our parks, our playgrounds, and then our, if we get summer camps, other outreach programs, educational and social for the children in our community, especially in what has been such a difficult time. We've partnered actively and want to continue to do so with many of our social service nonprofits with respect to food insecurity programs, making sure that we are outreaching to people who have needs, be it unemployment, utility support, and so forth. And then, of course, for local mayors, really a lot of the heart of our communities are our small businesses and restaurants. So we want to make sure that we are providing support, we understand their needs, and that we can craft programs both locally and in conjunction with the county that help them to continue to prosper and survive and, provide jobs and the other needs of our community. So, this is a topic that's so important, but just to provide some of the thoughts, some of the meat, some of the ideas that, we're looking forward to working on, as well as partnering with our county and our great state officials that you have on here as well today. And continuing to work collaboratively with our mayors, because, we exchange ideas. They have a program, and we have no pride in stealing it, if it's a good program. And I'm sure they feel the same. So thanks, John. Thank you, Commissioner,
for allowing me just to say a few words this morning. So in Hamilton, what we're really concentrating on, and we've partnered with the county, we partnered with the other towns since the end of December to do these bigger vaccine clinics throughout the county. But what we're seeing now is really we need to get out into the community. We have people who either don't really have broadband access to sign up online for a shot. They may have some ambivalence, they may have some concerns, but what we're seeing is if we can bring it to them, they are far more likely to get a vaccine. So the Johnson & Johnson vaccine was great for that because it required we only had to go out once. We didn't have to get follow-up from people. But, just before the Johnson & Johnson was taken off, we went to our Wilson Center, which many of you know is right behind Hamilton High West in one of our lower socioeconomic parts of town. And we were able to get over 100 people from the community around there vaccinated. And that's what we think we need more of, to go to places that people are rather than have them come to where we tell them to be, right? And so that's really what we're going to be stressing over these next several weeks, these next several months, is partnerships. We have a new partnership with Olden Pharmacy, which sits right on Olden Avenue near the border of Hamilton and Trenton. Again, a partnership we're going to be collaborating with them, going into one of our municipal buildings that sits only a few blocks from there, and getting people to where they are to be able to get the shot. So that's one of our big focuses over the next several weeks and the next couple of months. And I know our council is committed to putting the resources into that because it's more labor intensive to have to do that. When you used to be able to get 100 people in just a few hours. Now you may only get 25, 30, 40 people in that same amount of time. But that is going to add up, and it's going to be an exponentially greater impact for our community, because I agree with what Commissioner Cimino said. We have to get people healthy. We have to get them vaccinated in order to open our economy up. And on that front, we've already, through different funding sources, we've got dedicated over $500,000 just in Hamilton to our small businesses. I always think about the religious phrase, you give a person a fish, right? They eat for a day. You teach them how to fish, they'll eat forever. It's the same thing with jobs, right? We can just give somebody $100 and that'll get them through a day or two. But if we make sure there's jobs here in Hamilton for our local area residents, we know that they'll be taken care of in the long run. So we've had a lot of success in helping our local small businesses, helping our restaurants. I've been in touch with Director Anthony Carabelli from the county about pushing a program like that at the county level as well. We hope the county will enact a program like that countywide with the money they have. But those are just two of the big things that we see coming up in the next several weeks, the next several months that we need to continue to focus on to make sure our community here in Hamilton and obviously the whole county keeps our eyes and our nose above water, but then continues to rise and get even stronger in the weeks and months to come. So again, appreciate the opportunity to say a few words and looking forward to hearing from our other mayors as well.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. And you said something about taking the issue to the people. Each one of you on the call that is an elected official, every 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years, you go to the people. Well, why can't you go to the people now? Why can't you take this information now? Why can't, as an elected official in an off year who's not running for office, go knock on doors the same way you knocked on doors in an election year? One of the biggest criticisms that community have of our elected officials is that you only show up when it's election time. Well, in some cases, it's not election time, but the people still need, the people still want, the people still hurt, and the people are still dealing with chaos and confusion. So why not let's make an all-out political campaign approach to the COVID, to bringing information to services, to knocking on door to door in a non-election year, some of us, and ask folks, how do you think we ought to use this money? How would this money benefit you? And so I just wanted to give y'all some authentic food for thought as we continue to engage and collaborate, because one of my missions here, along with Janine LaRue, is to make us go, hadn't thought about that. And so as we move to our next speaker, this is interesting because there's a bit of African sense of humor in me, in that we don't need help, we need hope. And right now, one of our colleagues who has a similar initial as mine, JB, i.e. Julie Blake, is the mayor of Hopewell Township. So keeping hope alive, pun intended, how do you approach this conversation? How do you approach your citizenry? How do you approach the vision of the folks who want to see this money used in an effective and efficient manner?
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And I want you to appreciate very much that knocking on doors right now is not so welcome in a COVID world, but we have hope that right around the corner with some masks and some vaccines, we can start, meeting face to face. Hopewell is in an interesting position. We are in some ways a large suburban community that really depends on property owners to pay for things. And you know that we collect taxes to pay for the county and the schools, and that's the largest portion of our property bills. We depend on a few large commercial, not too many, but a few large commercial tax bases that have disappeared over the last few years. So we are in the unenviable position of really using those dollars that we're going to be getting, which is about 1.7 million, to repay uncollected taxes and a gap in revenues. So it's not a pretty picture for us in Hopewell in terms of having new opportunities, but as you said, hope is really important. And I do believe that when we start refilling our fund balance, because we've had to tap that, we've not been able to budget with these surplus tax dollars coming from the federal government. We haven't seen them. So with that being said, I think that what we've really discovered is with all of these problems through COVID, through a shrinking tax base from the large tax base in Hopewell, we see the problems, and then it really brings to the fore what are some of the solutions. And for us, we have, it's all timing, right? We have a very large affordable housing responsibility that's coming with an ever growing, it feels like, market rate housing push. So within the next 5 years, we're going to see our town grow by about 50% of what we have currently in terms of residential units. That is going to put incredible pressure, and in a good way, we have to look towards social service needs. That's where I'd like to see our dollars go. Through COVID, we had the opportunity to hire a vulnerable persons outreach coordinator, and he just came on board. We have, for the first time in years, a full-time nurse. We have a full-time health officer. We're, in a lot of ways, we're kind of like a small town, even though land mass wise, we dwarf many of, we overwhelm a lot of the size of, we're not densely populated. So some of these needs have not been there before, but they will be coming. So it's been really wonderful and interesting to see where we should be going. So I would say health services. And, I think several of the commissioners mentioned the importance of the health department in the county. Well, that COVID brought to the fore, we were so underfunded, underserviced, where we were looking to the county. We looked to the county for support, and you weren't there. And, we have managed, because of the I have to say, the incredible talent, energies, and just skills of the health department that does exist. So I want to bow and thank every person in public health who has been doing more than they possibly could have to make it work for our community. But we really see that it's not been fair to them, and that we need to do more for them. And that's where our money needs to go, is to make sure that public health comes to the fore, because that's not where we've been. And I know that, if you don't see it, it doesn't exist. Well, we've seen it, and it does exist. And we need to have a long memory for this. We cannot cut this again. So I probably have taken way too much time, but I have a lot of feelings about a lot of this, because it's really important. And I know Courtney Peters Manning is on this call too. So Courtney, if you have anything that you would like to share as well, because she is my that works with me in the town, and we all have a voice. But I just want to, if I missed anything, Courtney, I just want to make sure that you have an opportunity.
Thank you, Mayor Julie. I love being your bestie, as I always say.
Courtney, since we weren't expecting you, take a couple minutes.
I wasn't going to say much. I added in the chat. I think that this COVID was a wake-up call that public health was underfunded all over the country, and in Hopewell, we've made a serious effort to increase the funding in our health department. And that's all I was going to say. So thank you so much for letting me take a quick minute.
All right, no problem. Thank you. There's Hopewell Township, and then there's Hopewell Borough. And the Honorable Mayor of Hopewell Borough couldn't be with us today, but he sent his son. I'm just kidding, Ryan. You look like the young guy on the call, but they sent the Honorable Deputy Mayor Ryan Kennedy in, who is able and stable.
Leave my treasurer alone. Leave my treasurer alone, man.
All right. So go, Ryan.
Thank you.
Share with us what's happening in Hopewell Borough.
Sure. John, thank you. And Sam, first, for letting me speak and for putting this together. You're right. Just getting everyone at this table to talk about these things helps immensely. I'll speak in proportion to my town's giant size and be very quick. We are a traditional small town. We're dense, so we have infrastructure needs. These are things like water, a new well, so we control our own destiny with our water supply, safety and quantity. We've got needs for public works. We have a beautiful historic train station on this West Trenton line that was brought up before. We've made a big commitment to restoring that building through a grant through the New Jersey Historic Infrastructure Trust. But the capital needs for that are a priority for our town. Ultimately, we want to be connected. We want people to be connected with our businesses. We want, I think, to what Commissioner Cimino said, if we've learned anything into this pandemic is that we might have gotten better at connecting with people. I want my citizens to be able to get to county commissioner meetings as easily now or after this is done as they can now. So we need to invest in making sure that our in-person meetings work as well as Zoom. Now, that's not great for everyone now, but we're seeing more participation, and that should continue. So, this is a personal dream of mine as well, but, we want to be connected with transportation. People should be able to live in Hopewell Township, Hopewell Borough, and Pennington, and Ewing, and our capital city, and be connected to jobs in this county by public transportation. There's 2 beautiful steel rails that run right through my town. They connect to our airport, they connect to Philadelphia, they connect to New York, and they should connect to our capital city. I would personally love to see that. Our town has a beautiful plot and beautiful train station, essentially ready to go for that project, and I hope that that can become a priority. I'm also want to thank the township and the county for advancing a community center for Hopewell Valley altogether. And just one final thing I'll say, as the county and the state and everyone puts these infrastructure projects together, from the perspective of a small town, we welcome everything, but there is a need for coordination and information for everything. A town like mine with a road closure that lasts a couple months is crippling for already challenged small businesses and restaurants. We need to know when these things are happening and be part of the plan so that we can get our businesses the help they need and not cut them off from the lifeblood, which is their customers. And, we're a tiny little place with, 1 or 2 ways in, and when one of them is cut, we need a lot of help planning for that. And there's going to be a lot, hopefully, of bridges replaced, roads repaved, railroad crossings fixed when these infrastructure priorities come through. But we need to talk to each other. We need more forums like this so that we can coordinate and make sure we're prepared for when that happens. So again, thank you for getting us together, and I look forward to many, many, many more forums like this where we can all talk collaboratively.
I appreciate that, young man. That was very good for us to be able to hear. Just a heads up with Julie and Ryan. Before the pandemic, they had a historic and visionary conversation in Princeton. There were Princeton Township and Princeton Borough. And there was a question of what is the best use of the resources in a close proximity. And now they've become one Princeton. I can't tell y'all to become one Hopewell, but it would be nice if y'all would give Hope a chance.
I'm totally willing to absorb both Pennington and Hopewell Borough.
I'm sure you are.
I'm right on it. Ryan, you don't mind, right?
I'm sure you are. I just thought I'd throw a little something out there, Ryan, to keep the conversation going.
Senator's back on, John.
Okay, and we'll get to her, Sam, because I want to make sure we get the rhythm correctly. There are 2 let me take it back. There are 2 veteran mayors in the city, in the county. And I remember Birch Diamond on many occasions sharing with the others what they needed to do, because he is the elder statesman of mayors and has a good sense of what needs to happen. And so would y'all please welcome the Honorable Birch Diamond to the phone call. And for those who don't know, Bert was Abraham Lincoln's education, was his teacher when he was in high school. And so while Lincoln has left us, Bert is still here guiding us, encouraging us. And maybe we can use some of his wisdom and insight to be able to help us figure out from a collaborative perspective how we can all get along and work together in this county. Mayor, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you so much. I appreciate those kind words. I don't think I taught Lincoln, but I was probably close to it. But in any event, I do appreciate, and I'm sorry I joined the call late. I had to do some mayoral duties. In fact, I still have to do a wedding in a little while. But having said that, I heard what Ryan had to say. And to be quite candid with you, I echo that 100%. Because when we started the town center, we hired a traffic consultant, and it was urban engineering, basically. And we have this plan, or has this plan, and it's still on the books, that we would have a high bus speed line from Ewing to the city of Trenton, to the hospital, to the town center, to New Brunswick, through Hopewell, and back again. And then you could do all of that. And also tying together the train stations, both Trenton, Hamilton, and Ewing, for the time being, and hoping that in the near future that the New Jersey Department of Transportation will have the foresight to again reinstitute the West Trenton line into New York, well, actually into Newark, and then from Newark into New York City. I think that the population in New Jersey has shifted more towards the west of the state as opposed to going further east to the shore. And I think the population centers are shifting so they can, utilize that. I can only speak for Ewing going to, or our train station going down to Philadelphia. And other than now through this pandemic, obviously the SEPTA system has suffered greatly because of the reduction in the number of people traveling. But at the peak before the pandemic there was an average of 300 to 400 ridership going from West Trenton train station into Central Station in Pennsylvania. It was a cheap ride. We had free parking, although in the near future that parking lot will change to paid parking just to keep the maintenance up and make improvements to it. But, I just think that transportation is the key for everybody. We should be able to tie major hubs together, especially hospitals, every town center or every town headquarters, the department, the municipal buildings should be tied to public transportation, whether it's Hopewell, whether Ewing, whether it's Hamilton, all of those. They should all be tied so that individuals can hop on a bus and get to the, to where they need to get to go, especially if they need to go to a municipal complex. Right now, those municipal complexes are kind of isolated from from public transportation. And I think it's high time to kind of study to see how we can do that, going in there. I know Ryan had talked about the train station, to reconnect the West Trenton train station or a train station back to the city of Trenton. We had that at one time. Unfortunately, when that was abandoned, the right-of-ways for the rail line was sold off and housing developments popped into place. So that would be a very difficult place, but I'm sure that there are alternatives to try to accomplish something like that again. But again, transportation is key. Ewing Township, I have to tell you that we've been, even through the pandemic, we've been actively recruiting businesses and giving businesses opportunities to see what's available to them. And although we suffered, it slowed down a little bit. We still are getting many phone calls for people to want to relocate here. But one of the reasons why people want to relocate is because they want to get close to an airport. I see that every day. I had somebody that just rented a place at the new town center. They just opened up about a week and a half ago, and they started taking occupancy. And basically, she raved at the fact that she was in Florida 2.5 hours ago, got on the plane, landed at Mercer County Airport at Ewing, by the way, and then was able to get to her condo or her apartment in less than 2.5, 3 hours. And she just raved about it. She thought that was beautiful instead of having to drive down to Philadelphia or Newark or some other places. So the airport is key. I know that there is opposition to the airport from individuals, and I can understand some of that. But I think we can calm the nerves of individuals if we are just forthright as to what is going to go on with that particular airport. But again, as I said, the airport is key, not only to the economy of Ewing Township, but to the economy of the region, because you can see already great things that are happening. People are starting to relocate around that corridor. So that's all good. I know that this was supposed to also talk about the funds that we're getting from the federal government and the state government for COVID. I have to tell you that I don't know what to do at this point. I mean, we can try to plan and see. I'm talking about infrastructure. Talked about maybe if we can do some tax relief or whatever. But, until we have something in place from the federal government and the state as to where we can spend this money, we're just kind of spinning our wheels. And what I don't want to do is say, for instance, if we could use it for tax relief, that would just be a one-time thing. Next year, you'd be back in that same boat. So we need to look at projects that are long-lasting, what we can use that money for, not just a one-shot, giving somebody $100 credit for a tax bill, because that goes away. But if we can do certain, whether it's recreation or playgrounds or, anything to enhance our senior community population, we should do that, because those are not one-time fixes. We should look at long-term fixes, what to do with this money. That's my spiel. I hope I gave you some insight. I hope I didn't ramble too long, but I really, really appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and we appreciate your comments. Our next mayor is the Honorable Dave Freed from Robbinsville. Dave?
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. The first thing I think I'd like to say is, while this pandemic has been challenging, for all of us and for our business community and so many members of our community, it's also given us an opportunity, at least for the mayors, to be able to work together in a way that I don't think we've ever done before. For myself, I'd like to specifically thank Mayor Mirnoff and Mayor Martin, who spent an immeasurable amount of time with me during the pandemic, sort of talking and planning and sharing their ideas. And, all of us being able to work together has, I think, made each and every town in Mercer County better. I'd like to also thank the commissioners for always thinking about the towns. In Robbinsville, I've been one of the beneficiaries of the open space program and also the county at play grants. And that has helped our youth immeasurably. And those programs, from the county have really improved the towns. For Robbinsville, we've done some unusual things with some of our capital projects that I'd like to share with you, because I think as we think outside the box, for what we're going to do in the future, and I really like the comment of, talking to the people and having them tell us how to spend the money. My seniors came to me and they wanted a gardening program, and that's been done before and never very effectively. We did something very unusual in Robbinsville. We actually put in the first hydroponic farm that any town has ever put in, and we allowed our seniors to work the hydroponic farm. That farm right now today generates about 500 heads of lettuce that we donate to the Mercer Seat Friends, and actually helps those that are food insecure to actually get fresh greens. So we took something that typically doesn't turn into something all that interesting for our seniors and turned it into something that they're passionate about, and actually helps a lot of other people and keeps them very, very passionate to come in every day. And also allows our seniors to teach our kids about technology, and they're very proud of the fact that they're working on cutting edge technology. So I'm always looking for things that we can do that are win-win, that will help our community, but at the same time also an opportunity to give back. We invested in a training facility a couple of years ago, and we had it up and running last year to actually train our police on how to do de-escalation techniques. And we were a little ahead of the time and a little ahead of the curve in how important that is, because one of the things that we don't ever want to have happen is to have any unfortunate incidents in our community. And we have to be constantly training our police officers to make sure that those types of things don't happen. If we're not training, then we're not doing the things that we need to be doing to make sure that when I put our police in the field, that they are well equipped and well trained and understand what they have to do. That facility is now being used by others around the county, and we're very proud of that. So as we think about our infrastructure, how can we not only help ourselves, but help our neighbors? I'm very proud that we've met and actually built our entirety of our affordable housing for 2025. We're one of the few towns that also acquired a mobile home park, and we're now able to provide home ownership for some of our residents that have been renting for a long period of time. I was actually really glad that Lucy Walter brought that up, because I think that's something that we all should be working on, to try and create home ownership for our residents throughout Mercer County, especially those that are less fortunate. Too often we've allowed our affordable housing money to go to rentals. And I really believe that if we allow our residents to create equity, it allows them to build their community. That's something that I hope that perhaps, we all work together on, and, that we can do, a better job in the future of making sure that, everyone has that opportunity. From Robbinsville, we've also been blessed with a strong rateable base and having some, very large ratables come into town. In fact, we've had 9 years now of not having to increase taxes for our residents. So I'm very, very pleased about that. So, I'm always looking and listening and, grateful for ways to think outside the box. And, I'm also very grateful for the fact that the mayors and the commissioners in Mercer County are so willing to share their time and to kind of share what they've been doing and kind of give us, some of the better ideas. So thank you for letting me come on today. And I really appreciate being able to share a little bit about what we're doing here in Robbinsville and listen to what some of the other folks are doing as well. So thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate your comments. The Lawrence Township Business Administrator, Kevin Nowinski, are you with us, Kev? Okay, then we're going to move right on. I'm not sure if y'all saw the paper yesterday, but Reed has appointed a new acting chief of staff. And for those who don't know Arch Liston, he's a good man, and you should work with him every chance you get. But I appreciated the term that they called him in the paper, the troubleshooting chief of staff. And so welcome, troubleshooting chief of staff. Welcome back to the city. We're glad to see your face on this call this morning. Sorry that Reed couldn't be here, but if he sent anybody, it's good to have an able, competent person like yourself. Arch, you want to share with us what Reed's thinking is and what the city's thinking is relative to the COVID pandemic stimulus dollars? And in addition, we understand that Reed has appointed not a blue ribbon committee, but a Trenton Mercer County all-encompassing caring committee, people who care about the city of Trenton, who are willing to give their time and their talents and their resources to make it a better place to live, work, play, and do business. So, Arch?
Yep, I'm ready. I'm very glad to be on this call, and thank you very much for having me, and I'll be as brief as possible. First, I want to thank John and Sam for everything and letting me on this call. Mayor Reed obviously wants this to be impact money for the city of Trenton, and we're looking to that to be, obviously we're $73.8 million. It is truly impact money. I think getting the input of the people and prioritizing what the people want in the community is very important, along with the input from city council. The ultimate goal is to make sure that we get this money onto the street as soon as possible to impact the community, but also the short-term money and the long-term money so we can rebuild infrastructure. But we do have numerous issues as were brought up and listening to everyone who's quite familiar with the city. The process of just demolition and getting a lot of that done, getting streets repaved, those are just focus of things that we're going to listen to the community, the 12 people, us advisory committee. I think are important to get their priorities, but also and I think John, very important is let's listen to the homeowner. Let's listen to the resident who's barely making it day to day, week to week, and has had a major impact, the financial impact from COVID. So we're going to listen. We are preparing for the influx of the money. Spent probably 6 hours just staying meetings, just how make sure that they're appropriately put onto the people. I think the point was brought up about this being by Sam. This is the New Deal of our generation. And what I see here, just from my background experience, this is generational change here. This is truly generational change. We are going to see an impact in the city and the state that we should take advantage of, and we should build everything we can do and maximize the use of these funds. But one of the major points is the coordination between the state and county, just the issue with the library. The libraries need to be coordinated. We need to make sure that we maximize our dollars at the libraries, because we've neglected our libraries, our educational systems, and which ties into broadband. We need broadband. We need broadband across the city. We need to get to our kids, the educational systems, and we've lacked that. But I'm just looking forward to working with everyone across the board and moving forward. And thank you.
Thank you, Art. We really appreciate your comments. You know, I think Mark Frieda sent me a text to tell me that he was running a few minutes late because he had to do a wedding today. And so we're going to enjoy that. But I see Shirley Turner, I see the Honorable Shirley Turner on this call. And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, and y'all can be mad at me if you want, and I don't care, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask one of the loveliest ladies on the planet who's been holding up half the sky for Mercer County for a long, long time, to take a few minutes and share her thoughts about the COVID, about the money coming in, about social equity. When you're dealing with Shirley Turner, you got to give her some time, because she knows what she's talking about. And so if you don't listen, she may smack you aside. And since I'm one like you, I'm one of the young boys, you know what I mean? She don't mind saying, John, I told you. And so when Shirley speaks, everyone should listen. Would y'all please welcome the Honorable Shirley Turner. Take your mute off. Take your mute off, Senator.
I forgot that. Okay. I need you young guys to keep me on point. I really appreciate what you're doing here today, you, John, and Sam, as well as all the other elected and interested people here in Mercer County. This pandemic has really given us an opportunity of a lifetime. There's an old proverb that says it's an ill wind that blows nobody any good. And unfortunately, this pandemic has exposed the inequities as well as the disparities, particularly in education in this state and this country, also in healthcare. We've seen it up close and personal as far as this coronavirus is concerned, because it was the Black and brown people who were hit the hardest in terms of this pandemic. More Black and brown people contracted the coronavirus as well as died from the coronavirus. And in the beginning, even though this was the case, it was very, very difficult in order to get the vaccinations. There was some inequities in terms of making the vaccinations proportionate to the very people who were hurt the most by it. And the rollout was not perfect by any means. When the governor indicated in the Department of Health that 65-year-olds and older would be the first to get the vaccinations, but they had to use a computer. They had to utilize the state portal. And 65 and over, I'm in that category, and I am not computer literate. And neither are so many other people in that age group. And they had to rely totally on their children, their grandchildren, if they were lucky enough to have them around. I even had one daughter call me from Alaska because she was trying to find appointments for her mother. But the people who lived in the city of Trenton, most of them, they didn't have the benefit of having people who loved them and who had family members who could navigate the difficult system of getting appointments. So it just was very frustrating for not just those senior citizens, but for their children as well. But I think it's getting a lot better now. We see that more people are getting the vaccinations, and we've got to continue pushing for more people to get those vaccinations, because we cannot open up this economy and we cannot open up our schools until we do that. And we can't allow more and more people to become hit by that vicious virus. And we've seen the inequities in education. The light has been shown on education as well as healthcare. We have seen that Black and brown people are the ones who do not have the kind of health care that's necessary. And that is why they're more prone to the coronavirus as well as every other health issue. So we've seen also the income inequality that exists between Black and brown people. And that's one of the reasons that they were more prone to develop the virus, because they were considered essential workers. They were the ones who were out there in the front lines providing us with access to food and health care in the hospitals and nursing homes. They were the ones who were making, for the most part, minimum wage. And they were thrust out there in the area where they were able to contract the virus more than those people who had the degrees and who were making the large salaries. They could stay home and work from home, as they called it, and in the comfort of their homes. And that points up the inequity in education, because all schools shut down for a year and it was all virtual. It did not help the kids who lived in the urban areas, in particular in lower income families, because they did not have computers. They did not have the internet connection. Whereas their suburban counterparts, they had their parents home helping them navigate the computer, the remote learning, helping them with their homework assignments. So they did not lose as much as the kids in the urban areas. Our children have lost over a year of learning, and that will not be recovered. And I don't see any effort now in terms of helping them recover from that learning loss. And those children, those families, as well as this society, is going to pay a price for that.
Senator Turner, let me
Yes.
raise a question with you. You raised a very, very valid point. And I want to continue on with that point, because Sam and I were talking about this yesterday relative to how we help these kids. And so, my wife being an educator, we confronted the situation a little differently. What we did was not wait for the school to tell us what was happening. We engaged the school with two things. One, an individual assessment plan that we wanted for our grandson. And then two, we wanted, because he's a senior, we wanted now a pathway to graduation. So we looked at where he was at, and then we looked at what he needed to do to finish. And then we meet weekly with the guidance counselor or the teachers or whoever. And we don't want to hear about your kids. We don't want to hear about what's happening with your day. We don't want to hear about all the things. If you're a teacher and we're paying our taxes to pay your salary, then I want you available with this community-driven initiative and not school-driven initiative. And so I want to encourage parents to take it upon themselves to go into these schools, to call these schools, to say, this is what I want, because as Senator Turner said, we're doing less in person and more remote. So that remote allows kids to do what they call ghosting. And so teachers in some case don't care enough to be able to stay on top of that. And so here's how we made our district stay on top of it, by holding them accountable the same way they're holding our kids accountable. We're holding them accountable to come up with a plan to make sure there's a pathway for not only our grandson to graduate, but now what they've done is to saw the value of this, and they're going to try to make it something that's being done district-wide. I just wanted to share that point with you.
Okay, well, your son is very lucky that your wife and you are staying on top of it and holding the school district and the teachers accountable. But unfortunately, not enough of that is happening. And most of these urban districts, when the children did not have the tools that they needed for remote learning, they didn't have the computer or the internet connection. So they could not even participate in online learning. And I had parents as well as teachers tell me that when they were provided with the computers and the internet connections, they would sign on and then go back to bed. Or they would not sign on and stay in bed. And their parents weren't there to make sure that they were participating in the remote learning. So that is one of the problems. And many of these kids were behind before the pandemic, before they lost a year of learning. So those are going to be the ones more likely to drop out. The other thing that I would like to say is this is an opportunity of a lifetime, because I know I will never see this kind of money come into our state or our communities again. I think over $10 billion is coming into New Jersey, and millions are coming into our local levels of government. So we should be looking to rectify a lot of these inequities, as well as disparities that the pandemic has demonstrated to us. I know that it has been a time that we did benefit because we're all working together more than we did before. We're reaching out, we're networking, and we're looking to make sure that we're serving the people in this state as well as our districts and communities. And I'd just like to say about Mayor Freed. Mayor Freed is an example of where you reach across the aisle, you reach across this county, your district, to get things done. Mayor Freed was someone that Verlena, Anthony, and I went to get masks when this pandemic first hit, because I had constituents calling my office after the governor said you could not go into grocery stores or any retail outlet, drugstores, without a mask. I had senior citizens calling me saying, I don't know where I can get a mask. I need a mask so I can go shopping. I need a mask so I can go pick up my medicine. So it was Mayor Freed who was able to get some masks because he had connections across the ocean. And he was very helpful in terms of having us avail ourselves to his source. So we have come together in that sense because of the pandemic. And I think we have to continue working and partnering together in order for us to get this state, our communities back on track for the benefit of our people. And I think that social justice is another area that we benefited in because of the pandemic. Because if it had not been for the pandemic, we would have forgotten about George Floyd. The only reason that jury found Chauvin guilty was because it was the pandemic. And that's all people could see on television in living color and in sound, what that man went through with that knee on his neck, begging not only for mercy, but for his mother. And if it had not been for the pandemic, people would have forgotten about it. But they saw that tape in and day out, all day, that they saw it and could not deny that that man was being murdered. And that was why the jury had no choice except to say on 3 counts that Chauvin was guilty. And of course, we can't forget the fact that that teenager was smart enough and sharp enough to videotape the whole thing, 9 minutes and 29 seconds. And that was shown to the jury, and there was no way they could find any other verdict than guilty. So we need to be mindful of the fact that our job is not done in terms of social justice. Just because of that one verdict with COVID, there are other instances too that we have to make sure that justice is going to be served to all people.
Thank you, Senator Turner. We appreciate that. As always, our esteemed Capital City Area Black Caucus members, Janine LaRue, if she'd take a few minutes and give us her thoughts about this whole situation relative to the COVID. We know you're going to say some things about our honorary later, but I thought it might be a good piece to have you say a few things now while we're waiting on the other mayor to join us.
All right. Well, thank you, John and Sam. I just think that we have an amazing opportunity here Mercer County has been known town by town to deliver good government. It's one of the things that I have enjoyed about being a part of this Mercer family for almost 17 years. But I love what the commissioner and my favorite son and JB, what you have been talking about here today, is that we have a moment of reset. You know, I did something today that I haven't done in over a year. I actually went to a place and I went into the great township of Ewing, and I had breakfast outside in a restaurant and took off my mask and felt just a little normal for a couple of seconds. And, you know, as I was thinking about it, I'm like, you know, over the last year, getting ready to come here to this meeting, when we started this caucus, we met at the Capital City YMCA. We never missed a month. And I was wondering, how would we fare during a pandemic when everything went virtual? And I have to tell you, you folks have risen to the challenge. Every single month, you have shown up. And my only comment to each of you, now that we have all the towns represented, we have almost the entire full county commission represented. We have all of our residents, a lot of our residents on here. And my favorite mayor in the whole wide world, I see him sitting there with his nice yellow shirt getting ready to be honored soon. We have all of you, you have shown up. And what I would say is this huge challenge has given us an opportunity that when we go back to our new normal, because we're never going back to the normal as we knew it, ever. It's never going to happen. But when we go back to our new normal, let us not forget the opportunity that was laid before us. Let us not forget how all of this money is even coming into the state and what we might want to look at as we distribute these funds around. And let us not forget each other. Because while we have all these towns here unified in squares today, we can't run from the fact that we're all so different. We really are, town by town. We're very, very different, but yet we're still the same. So thank you, Sam. Thank you, John, for this opportunity to reset. And now as we're moving into a new normal where we're going to eat and we're all vaccinated and now we're going to get all this money, let us not forget how we did this. Thank you.
No problem. You know, Sam, we're right on time in our schedule. And I got 2 minutes here right before we get to recognizing the Honorable Douglas E. Fresh. But, you know, that's what y'all call him, Doug H. Palmer. I call him Doug E. Fresh, 6 minutes till you go on, because Sam and I have worked for him. And in working for him, there would always be the meeting before the meeting. And the meeting before the meeting was to hear the mayor's questions. Okay, JB or Sam, who am I meeting with? What's going on? What are the cogent issues? And he was such a sponge that he could absorb it and then within moments be able to articulate. But, you know, he's just one of many. And part of what he'll tell you is that there came folks behind him. And on this call today, we have a young brother who's coming behind him, who is coming behind Sam, who didn't just step out of nowhere. He's been working with youth in our towns. I think he still lives in Ewing. And that is our candidate for Mercer County Commissioner, Terrence Stokes, who was on the call today. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, young brother, good to see you. Come on and say something to us. Take a minute before we put Dougie Fresh on and say something to us about your vision, your journey, what you see going on. You don't necessarily have to talk to about the pandemic, but we just want to give you an opportunity just to say hello to folks, and so we can see that stoked smile.
Well, thank you, Mr. Belly. I mean, I'm down here in Virginia Beach at my daughter's basketball tournament. Had an opportunity to sneak out for a minute to jump on. Definitely wanted to take the opportunity to say hello and just listen to some of the thoughts that's going on across the county within our individual municipalities. And should I be fortunate enough to win the seat in November, just figuring out ways in which I can be of assistance to, helping to move municipalities and the county forward. I know that this about to jump into a recognition for the Honorable Mayor Douglas H. Palmer, who 30 plus years ago kind of sparked an interest in a young 17-year-old junior at Trenton High that, you can enter into politics and win. Working on his campaign as a junior and just seeing a charismatic, I'm going to say he was attractive at that point, but just politically brilliant.
He will too.
But politically brilliant man who really embodied everything that Trenton was about. Quick story. I know, Mr. Belly, you like to cut me off and I sometimes get long-winded, but quick story about just how much, Mayor Palmer loved and supported the city of Trenton. It was 1991 at Monmouth University, a semifinal basketball game between Trenton Central High School and Camden High School. Trenton High lost in double overtime. The school from South Jersey rushed the floor afterwards. I think the statute of limitations has expired on this. So Doug Palmer was out there defending not only the basketball players, but the citizens of the city of Trenton who were being attacked after this game. And just to see how he was giving up of himself, his own safety, to protect the people of the city that he loved is something that here we are. I'm 30, 40 years later. I still remember that and grateful that, the mayor stuck up for the city of Trenton. And for a young kid who aspired to be into politics, that was one thing that always stuck out to me, is that you always have to support and defend your constituents, no matter what the situation is. If that means putting yourself in harm's way, that's what you do. So Mayor Palmer, I never got to thank you for that because I was one of the kids on the team who had to be protected. Thank you for protecting me, but thank you for loving the city of Trenton enough to put yourself out there to defend us. And I hope to be able to follow in that same vein as I am working to represent citizens, not only of Trenton, but of the entire county of Mercer. So Mr. Belly, thank you. My daughter has a playoff game coming up in about 20 minutes. Hopefully I'll be able to report that they have advanced to the championship. So thank you guys. And Mayor, well deserved. And I look forward to working with you and learning more from you as this process moves on with me. Thanks, guys.
Good luck, Terrence. And for those who don't know, this young brother is an Ivy League graduate, went to Penn, and he has always been one of my favorite young men. And Sam, before we get to 6 minutes, right? Mark Frieda just joined us, and I'd be remiss because he's I do some Princeton things every once in a while, and he's one of my mayors as well. And since we're telling stories, Terrence, let me tell you the story of when Princeton played Camden when Wayne Smalls was there, and Wayne Smalls was all world, and Tony Bailey and Gil Spencer. Gil Spencer's dad was the editor of the Trentonian at the time, and they beat Camden up in Princeton High. It was the biggest victory they ever had. So I just want to let you know, what Trenton makes the world takes, and ain't nothing like Tornado Alley. Princeton High get a little bit done. Little Tigers get a little bit done every once in a while. So with that, our mayor from Princeton, Mark Frieda. Doug, come on now. Our mayor from Princeton, Mark Frieda.
Hey, John, thanks. Hey, everybody. Sorry I was late. I had to perform a wedding, and I kind of thought I should be on time and not rush out of there when it was over. But anyway, thanks for your indulgence. It's great to see everybody. And John, I want to thank you for continually inviting me and keeping me aware of so many things. You're a great asset to Mercer County, to Princeton, to all the towns in the area, even though you're all the way out in Colorado. I'm constantly amazed by all you do for all of us. So thank you. And I know today, I assume everybody was kind of talking about what we're going to do with some of the money from the American Rescue Act. And I know in Princeton, we're going to get it in 2 waves, part of it this year, part of it next year. We haven't really been told by the federal government yet exactly how we can spend it. But I think what we're probably going to end up doing this year is try to save taxpayers, property owners some money and try to keep our tax increase to nothing. Hopefully we can achieve that. But we're talking about a lot of ways to use the money next year to invest in the community and to hopefully help the community and not just have it as the money come in and it's boom, it's spent, it's gone, but invest it in a way that actually keeps giving back to the community. So I think the message for today is all the elected officials, long-term planning, looking ahead, trying to have some sort of vision. That's where we're all headed, and working together with all the mayors in the county and working with the commissioners. Sam and I were talking just a few days ago about a couple topics. And so it's a great place to be. And we have a lot of good elected officials here. So I'm happy for that. And I know we got an important thing to get to with Doug. So thank you all. Have a great day. And on to Doug.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. And so, Sam, as we listen to everything that's being said, I've heard collaboration. I've heard communication. I've heard a willingness to work with each other. I've heard great intellectual property ideas in terms of best practices, in terms of some new practices. And so the charge, I guess, from Capital City Area Black Caucus, because we reached out to you initially, was to ask that you continue this work. I mean, I know everybody's voluntolding you a whole bunch of stuff, more stuff to do, but to whom much is given, much is expected. And I wouldn't ask you to do anything that I didn't think that you could do. And none of us on this call would ask you to do anything that you couldn't do. But I guess I'm saying on behalf of you to all of us on this call, he can't do this alone. None of us can do this alone. And he's going to need all of our help, and individual mayors and assembly people and commissioners are going to need all of our help. And so having said that, we're going to move to the next part of our conversation, and that is the introduction of our honoree. And Sam, I'm going to preempt you by saying he is one of my best friends on the planet. You know, I call him Dougie Fresh, 6 minutes till you go on, because that's my African sense of humor. We've worked together for many of years. He has come to Princeton when, he was a young boy and I was a little bit older than him, and I said, run him back down 27 because he stayed up too long trying to talk to some of the ladies up in town. And then I remember going down to Catwater Park and seeing him knock one over the fence. And then the little cute stroll he had around the bases, letting everybody know, yeah, I'm Doug Palmer. I'm a baseball player. I can't play football and I can't play basketball, you know what I mean? But I can knock it out the park. And so with all of that, we're going to today recognize an unbelievable human being. If you saw the article in the paper yesterday, they were talking about what we ought to be doing with Doug, but what we ought to be doing for Shirley and what we ought to be doing for Bonnie Watts and Coleman, that give them their flowers while they're here. I teased Doug yesterday by saying they're talking about changing the 5 points into Palmer Square, pun on LA's article, or taking the letters on the bridge there where Trenton makes and put Doug Palmer Bridge. And then he said, come on, JB. I said, all right, man, and we'll take a street corner and name it the Doug Palmer Street Corner and let's be through with it. He said, nah, don't get crazy. So having said all of that, this is my guy. You are my guy. And everybody on this call are my people. But today we're going to recognize one of our people, especially because he's doing good work for, not only he did it for the city, but for Palmer Associates. He's doing good work for Curio and Mike Bronfien and Wendy and Povella and Jarrell and all of them. Unbelievable work for Curio. And so, Sam, take it away and talk a little bit about Douglas E. Fresh, alias Douglas H. Palmer, Honorable Mayor, former Mayor, and Honorable former Mercer County freeholder, now transferred to Commissioner. Sam Frizzy, your introduction, please.
Thank you, JB. I want to say, first of all, thank you to everybody that's on this call and to the leadership that's on here, people like Senator Turner, Valina Reynolds Jackson, our esteemed assembly people. I see Ms. Tunstall down there. There are a lot of people, my mother, that I take a lot of cues from. I might not say a lot, but I'm always listening and watching, and then I'm always working. This person I have the honor of introducing today, for me, is really, really special. Yeah, my mom calls him my political dad, and really is. Typically, when I have a political decision to make, or just tough decisions, political or otherwise, there are only two men that I call, and that is John Bailey and Douglas H. Palmer. They're the only two people that I call. I always call my mother, but I talk to them. When I chose to run for freeholder, first call I made was to Doug Palmer and said, boss, this is what I'm thinking about doing. And he gave me the right blueprint. He's never given me bad information. Most people don't know the only reason I actually moved to Trenton was because of Douglas H. Palmer. When he hired me as the division director of recreation, my wife and I had just built a house in another town, and we were happy where we were. But when I met him and I heard his vision, I said to my wife, I said, I could work for that man, and we could get some things done. And she said, let's put the house up for sale and let's move to Trenton. Doug Palmer is, other than the fact that he went to Hampton University, and I'm a Howard Bison, there's a lot of really, really good things about this man. I mean, elected to the school board, elected as a county commissioner, then freeholder, the first African-American mayor of the capital city. He's respected regionally, he's respected statewide, he's respected nationally. I listen to his stories, but I also listen to other people's stories. And he's, if you know Doug, he's got a million stories. But the story that made me say that, you know what, I think I might want to be not only an elected official, but I want to be like him as an elected official, was when, I think it was Rocky who told me, they were first year mayor, Doug had all of his cabinet meetings weekly, and they would walk the city to see what was going on in the city and see what was going wrong in the city. And one particular time they saw a guy dumping a couch on the street, and Doug is with his detail, but he starts running towards the guy and chasing down the car, leaving his detail and all the rest of the cabinet behind. And he catches up to the guy under the car and says, hey, I'm the mayor of this city now. We're not going to have any illegal dumping in our city. Pick that thing back up and put it back on your car. That's the type of leader that he is. He just does. He's charismatic. What John talked about, him being able to just absorb information. Most people don't know he is the only mayor in the nation that has served 2 terms, more than 1 term, as the U.S. Conference of Mayors leader, as the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. He's charismatic. When I talk to people from, on the national stage now, they say, Doug Palmer? So I used to work for Doug Palmer, and I can say that with pride. And I can say that with pride because it's a man that loves his city. He loves his people. He loves his family. And Mayor, I want to let everybody know that I am proud to be associated with you. And I'm so glad that you chose me to run recreation when you did, because I would have never made it to Trenton had you not. So thank you for giving me an opportunity and changing my life when I didn't even know that it was going to change my life. I introduce to you and give to everybody here my good friend, my mentor, who is my political father, Mayor Douglas H. Palmer.
Well, thank you so much. And hey, Terrence, I feel you, man, because right now my daughter's in a big golf tournament at Petty, and my stomach is in knots. I tell you, I'm just in knots. And I know Leighton Newell, my best friend in the world, is on the call. He knows about me and my daughter and her golfing. So I can't even think straight right now. I can't wait till the tournament's over. I don't care how she does, but she'll do fine. First of all, giving honor to God, first in my life. I really want to thank you, JB and Sam. You've always been in my corner. But, you know, COVID really does things to your mind. You know, it makes you forget what day it is, what month, because you're honoring me. And I could have sworn that this was April, almost May, but it's February, right? Black History Month, you're honoring me. It must be Black History Month.
That's old.
You know, it's the only time we get honored, right? Black History Month, but it's not. It is really April. You know, it also reminds me the way you were talking so good about me. Buster Soares is a good friend of mine, and I think he's one of the greatest pastors in the country. And one day we were on the train together, and I said to him, you know, when I leave this earth, I would like you to, you know, do my eulogy. He said, if I'm here, I'll be glad to do it. But I got to be thinking, and I said, look, I'll tell you what, work on it, do my eulogy now, and let me hear it. Because I want to be able to hear it. So tell me what you would say so I can hear it now. He said, man, you crazy. He said, you crazy. But actually, it's felt like that with you talking about me right now. You know, JB said, to much you was given, much is expected. And quite frankly, there was no reason in the world I shouldn't have been successful because of the parents I had, George and Dorothy Palmer, and their parents who were my grandparents, and what they did and what they showed me each and every day. My mom passed 16 years ago. She's been my rock and still is. And I'm still blessed. My sister and I have the best sister in the world, Karen. And my dad's still hanging in there at 95 and still doing income taxes. Still doing income taxes. He does over 100 a year. So, you know, God bless him. So I had great parents, came up in a great era in Trenton. And quite frankly, that's what my new vision was. When JB and others would ask me, what's this new vision for Trenton? And Diane Campbell, who was Diane Mitchell, understands this. It was like Trenton was such a great place. And I said in 1990, my new vision is actually an old vision. I want to have Trenton be the city, again, that I grew up with, where people looked out for each other. And we had great school system. We had families working together and opportunities. So that was the new vision. So there's no reason I shouldn't have been successful, and I feel I have to continue to give back. You know, I really want to thank all the people that have inspired me along the way, who've made me the person I am, other than my family and my sister and friends like Leighton and JB. But, of course, Reverend H.S. Howard Woodson Jr., there's no way that I could ever say anything without mentioning him first. John Watson, first African-American freeholder. Dr. Gene Emmons. A lot of people don't know that, but Dr. Gene Emmons was superintendent of the schools. He really helped bring me along. And Joyce Kersey knows that. Joyce Kersey and I go back, too. We were co-campaign managers with the elected school board, and we were very victorious. Catherine Graham and all the people, Big Ed Vereen and Bo Robinson, and all these individuals that made me who I am. And I think it's important that we recognize that. I can remember when Senator Turner, Shirley and I served on the Board of Freeholders, now the Board of Commissioners together. And she was the first African-American woman serve on the Board of Freeholders. She held her own. You knew she was going places. She's a senator, represents us well. But what a lot of people don't know about Senator Turner is she was a hell of an athlete. This woman was a hell of an athlete. And she was a student teacher, because my mom was a phys ed teacher. She was a student teacher, phys ed. But Shirley could go. Shirley was a baller. We even played Republicans, and that's when Republicans and Democrats got along. We actually played a basketball game. Remember, Senator, at Rider College, and she scored more points than I did. You know, but John, I did play basketball and football, by the way. Anyway, I could mention everybody's here, but I really want to thank all the people that helped me along the way. You talk about Rocky Peterson, my cabinet, Bill Watson, Wendy, Jerry Harris. I was very blessed and fortunate to have great people around me, and I did suck up everything like a sponge because I knew I wasn't the smartest person in the room. Some people, you know, if you're the smartest person in the room, that's a room you don't want to be in long. And so I had smart people around me that taught me. And I had people like Andrew Bobbitt, who I love dearly. This young man, him and Terrence and others, helped my campaign in 90. He took me around places that my mom wouldn't even let me go when I was a teenager. I couldn't go to Wilbur section. I mean, when I did, I got my ass kicked. So, you know, he took me around, and he's been a lifelong dear friend, man. If you got somebody like Andrew Bobbitt in the corner, you don't need nobody else. Believe me. I love you, Andrew, and thank you very much for always being the person that you are. You know, JB and Butch Tunstall and Kenny Faulkner and everybody. We helped groom you, and look at you today, working with Mayor Gus Yor and doing a great job, as is Mayor Gus Yor, by the way. And so I want to thank all the people that helped me be who I am now, but also my new family. And John mentioned Curio. I know they joined the call. I'm humbled that they did because they're very busy. Curio Wellness is a #1 medicinal marijuana company in Maryland. We hope to do something in Trenton. City Council's already approved us having land on Enterprise Avenue, and we're hoping that we get, and Assemblywoman Verlina Jackson Reynolds is helping. Hopefully we get this license and we can provide over 200 jobs in Trenton, good jobs. And so I want to thank my Curio family. I see Corvella and Mike and Wendy Brownfine. Thank you much. And my Trent Literacy Movement family, Gene Tunstall, and I see Barbara Pfeiffer's on the call. They really gave me new life and a new vision as it relates to literacy and working with them. And it's just truly a joy. You know, in the end, I just want to, thank you for, this recognition. I'm actually getting humbled by stuff like this now because I feel like my work's not done, and it's not. And actually, what's been happening when I grew up in the 60s when we were protesting, and now it's coming full circle. Now I'm almost 70, and because of movements like Black Lives Matter and people working together to try to get equity and diversity and inclusion and young people leading the way, it's great to be able to be a part of it, and I want to be a part of it, and we'll continue to work and do those things. So, thank you all for spending time out of your busy schedule, because you don't have to be here. I mean, it's a Saturday. And like I said, I could go on and on, because as I look at people on the call, I get in trouble start mentioning people. But, you've got John Cimino and Paula Solomon Cabello. Both their dads were my running mates, and we served on the Freeholder Board together. I know Michael Floyd is on the call, and he may not want to admit it. Hey, Mayor Frieda, Mike may not want to admit this now, but Mike was in my booster club and helped me get elected and helped me a long time. So, I want to thank those folks as well. So thank you very much. Certainly I'm going to continue to work with the vision of the caucus and to make sure that we really, if we work together, and I don't want to miss John Harmon, because think about this. How many people are friends that ran against each other? Not many. And John Harmon gave me all I needed and then some. And he helped me along the way. He and Tracy Sypex taught me a lot about what more needed to be done in terms of minority contracting. And he's big time now, and we work together. And I really want to thank you, John, for your leadership and what you do. And we all have to work together and help everybody. But folks, in conclusion, if we stick together, we don't always have to, like Reverend what you say, we have to wake up blunt kisses at each other. But if we work together, separate the differences and say, okay, maybe I don't agree with everything, but work together, we can achieve great things. And my friends, our constituents can't afford us not to get along and to bicker and fight because they are suffering. So if we work together, we can accomplish anything. So again, thank you very much. I'm humbled, and have a great day. You've made my day very special.
Thank you, Doug. Before we get into our community comments, let me just say a couple things real quick. And these are stories that might be of interest. One came in April of some year. My memory is shot now, but Doug is running for mayor. And I come back in April to play some basketball games. I took a group of middle school students. We took a tour of New Jersey. And while I was here, Doug said, well, hey, man, I'm gonna run. Why don't you come and talk to my campaign manager, which is Bill Watson, and let's see what we're doing. So Doug and I went over to Bill's house, and Bill will tell you, we said,
no, it was over my mom's house.
Mom's house, and I asked Billy 1,000 questions, and so I left, and Billy called Doug and said, man, did I just get interviewed for your job? And Doug said, well, it sounds like that. And from that conversation, Billy and I created not only a new vision, but it's Palmer time, number one. On election day, Billy, John Watson, his dad, and Rocky Peterson were in court first thing in the morning because as black folks were coming inspired and enthusiastic to go to the polls, the police were on the poll. Carmen Armenti, won't say Carmen sent them, but the police were on the polls. And as you came up to vote, the police would then come forward and say, why are you here? And so the word through the black community got out that the police are on the polls, don't go vote. This was a suppression tactic being utilized to keep Doug out of office. So Rocky and Doug and John Watson are in court. They get an injunction to get all the police off the polls. This is at 12 o'clock. At 12:05, I call Sharp James and Shaka Fatah. Each one of them sent 2 buses, 100 people each, into the city of Trenton. We then put 50 people in each one of the quadrants, and the rest is history. That night, Doug Palmer became the first African-American mayor. It showed the strategy and the tactic that one goes through to make sure that something happens. John Raines, turn your dog off. That we go through to get things happening. And so, having said that, I wanted to use that story because I want to use that as a segue into our next speaker, and that is the CEO and president of the African American Chamber of Commerce, not only Doug's boy, but one of my boys. We call him Big John, even though he's only 5'11", we still call him Big John. But John, come talk about a little bit about the COVID if you want, and please, whatever testimony you want to share about Dougie Fresh.
Well, I'm humbled to be here, and I'll close on thoughts about Doug Palmer, who's just a special person. But in terms of, this COVID situation has afforded us all to reassess who we are and what we represent to each other. We're seeing an outcry from all sectors of society, resources being made available. And this is the time, as I said, to reset and reposition. Our capital city is on the brink of receiving a windfall of some $70+ million. And I just made 7 little notes of suggestion that I would hope the folks involved would consider. One, a clean city initiative with accountability. Doug referenced someone, throwing a couch out. We just need to look at that in a real way. Just having a clean city would mean a lot to the perception. Hire more inspectors. We need to focus on a workforce career training initiative. There's a lot of people who have the desire to work but need requisite skills. Entrepreneurship programs, and everything all these initiatives have to be intentional. They just can't be just another initiative. They got to be focused with some eyes towards to make an impact. Home ownership campaign. I believe the city right now is 63% 60% renter versus home ownership. So some down payment assistance and some subsidies for those who are looking to build houses in Trenton and not depend on, getting money from the state, which can be very competitive. And so I'll stop there. But in terms of Doug, he took office in 1990, which was an inspiring and transformational time. I was still working in New York at the time, but it was very inspirational to see him step out there and take the city in a new direction. He led the city to national prominence. And Doug referenced our relationship. I tell you, politics was not something that I wanted to get into. I really wanted to help Doug with helping the businesses, and we could never get that conversation together. And unfortunately, it led me to compete against him, but it made me a better person, and also I believe made him a better person. But moreover, it helped me to really find my true passion, and that's not to be an elected official. So our relationship represents a mutual appreciation for what we can do and what we can provide to our community and the people we serve. And I say to Doug, I love you as a brother. I accept you as a friend, and anything I can do to help you and help us and to help our city, help our people, help our state, I'm just a phone call away. And to John Bailey, you're a special guy, man. And you can fill in the blanks after special, but you have made a commitment to challenge each and every one of us to do all we can to make us better. And I salute you for that. And I'm here to do all I can to contribute to the continuation of what we've started here. God bless you.
Thank you. John and I had a conversation a long time ago, and I said to him, this is not a Shakespearean thing to be or not to be. It's really a Black thing. It's about being more. And he heard that, and he's always been about being more. Did the Honorable Annette Lateague, did you leave us? Are you still on the call? Dwayne Williamson, are you on the call? All right, then good. Then let's go to the young brother that Doug was talking about, who I remember this clearly. I'm in the office one day, and Doug came in and said, JB, I got this young brother that I want you to bring in the recreation department. I said, not a problem. And he said, but he needs some work. I said, come on, man, I can do this. So up shows Andrew Bobbin. And Andrew at that time was really just a young man who was finding his vision, finding his focus. And I did not realize that this brother was going to be the type of person that he has turned out to be. I mean, an exceptional Black man getting things done in our city. As a matter of fact, he's on the call, and the Andrew that I saw had a little bit of hair that was on the top of his head. This Andrew has no hair, and it's all growing out of his beard. And so this is an interesting thing because that's not the guy I remember, but it shows that, again, we evolve, we grow, we become. And Doug, I'm glad you introduced me to this young man because he has become. And so I'm excited to be able to introduce to y'all to say a few words about Doug Palmer, and that is Andrew Bobbin.
Oh, thanks, John, for that great introduction. Thanks, the Black Committee, for y'all putting this together. It's been years. We've been trying to get Doug Palmer honored. He would never accept it, John. You already know that. It's been over 10 years just trying to get something named after him. But I just want to say this about, I never called him Doug. I always called him Mayor or Boss. I call him Boss now. I met him, and I remember this. I was working on a campaign for free. I left the streets and volunteered. And I remember I was trying to get in. I was just licking envelopes in there with crazy Pat Hood. Y'all know Pat Hood. And one day they was like, we need to get Doug on the radio stations, not just WIMG. So I remember Bill Watson was running the campaign, gave me $20, and I said I had some connections in Philly. And I knew Doug Henderson, Patty Jackson, and the rest of them. So I went to Philly with $20, $10 to do the tank, and they only gave me $10 to eat. But when I went there, I talked to them, gave them a profile about Douglas H. Palmer, and told him he's going to be the first black man to be mayor of a city that's been here since 1779. And I said, he's going to be the first. So they gave us a contract. I ain't going to tell y'all how that contract was done, but they gave us a contract to do all these commercials free for Doug. Next thing you know, I come back to Trenton, Doug. I hear people listen to the radio. They was jumping in the headquarters. Doug runs in the headquarters. I'm on WDAS. I'm on WDAS. And they was like, how you get on DAS? So they said that guy over there. I never forget it. He came and shook my hand and said, thanks, man. So we got in the car, went to one of our favorite places, Candlelight. And right there became the best of friends. I looked up to this guy. The reason I did, because a black man growing up without a college degree, coming off the streets without a father figure. And he taught me a lot. I learned the way to even basically dress, the proper way to be at certain events. And he taught me so much. So I started looking at him as a father figure. I started looking at him as a brother, an uncle, as a young black man, not having that figure around in my family. My family is basically a lot of women. And I just roomed with him. So at the time, Doug was like this. He said, man, I'm going to get you a job. And he said, find everybody else that worked with you in this campaign. And I remember when we was working on the campaign, Doug couldn't go out Weber section. He didn't know nobody in Chambersburg. And I said, I'd take you out there. So we went out Weber section. He went through knocking on doors, going in people's houses. Doug was like, man, it's rough around here. I said, yeah, but Weber section, I remember that, right? Weber section of Chambersburg was the biggest area of votes. You got the most votes from the East Ward. And I remember I took him out Chambersburg, and he was like, man, you don't know these white people out here, man. You know, they beat up black people. And I said, man, we cool out here. Trust me. And everywhere we went, they was like, hey, Andrew. Hey, Andrew. He said, man, who are you? I said, man, I'm Andrew Bowers, man. I play baseball out here. I get to that later. But you talking about a person that took somebody when other people did not believe in them. You talking about, I remember we used to be at places, and even the headquarters, they was like, man, me and Tony Mack and myself, man, you brought these thugs from out of Weber section. Man, you can't trust them. Doug trusted us. Doug believed in me. And I take that at value, that he showed me not just to be on campaigns or get a job at City Hall. We talking about life, how to take my money and when I got paid, to put it away till I retire, what companies to get into, values of life. So I'm not just looking at Doug as a person that gave me a job. And I'm telling you something. And if anybody know, and he ain't got that many close friends, he don't give you nothing free. You're going to earn that job. It wasn't like I'm Doug Palmer boy, because that's how they looked at me. I had directors scared of me. But he made you earn that job. And even when I thought I could do what I want to do, and I don't know, Sam and John Belly wasn't there, I got a letter sitting on my desk. I think I did this great program, all these people there. I said, oh, boy, I'm going to get a raise. I wasn't coming to work. I thought I could get my check Thursday, show back up Tuesday, no call or nothing. And Doug said, Andrew, go to work. Kept telling me. I said, yeah, man, yeah, you're going to fire me, Andrew Bowers. He fired me. And one thing I learned, as soon as people found out that I was fired, newspaper, radio stations, they was looking for me. And I was mad at Doug. But then I sat back and thought about it. It wasn't Doug that fired me. I fired myself. It was me. I took the responsibility and say, this was me that did that. Doug didn't do this to me. And this is what me and Doug talk about all the time. Loyalty. Where is the loyalty now in politics in our communities? Loyalty. Stick by somebody through the good. You're always there for the good, but when it get bad, are you still loyal to that individual or to the work you do?
Okay, Reverend Bobbitt, I'm gonna grab you there because you and I both know you love this brother so much that you just getting started. you just getting started, and we got a couple other people on here who need to speak. So not to disrespect the conversation, but Andrew, thank you for your comments, and we're gonna move, if you don't mind, over to Tracy Syfax. Trace, you want to say something relative to Doug Palmer? All right.
Hey, John, I am on the move, brother. I'm actually on the move, but I've been hearing it, man. But just wanted to say, Doug knows, and John pretty much said everything that needed to be said. But Doug is a guy's guy, man, and I can't say enough about how someone, and as he stated earlier, John ran against him. Of course, I supported John, but I remember clearly right after the 2006 election when John lost. Doug came to me and said, listen, Tracy, we got to work together on creating reentry programs for folks that are coming home from prison. And right then, we began the MOED program, and he named me co-chair of the board. And we did some great things over a number of years through that program. So kudos to Doug, man. He is a straight-up guy. We've been friends ever since, and I just love him. So, Doug, keep doing what you're doing, man. This is well-deserved, and thank you, John, for giving me the opportunity.
Not a problem. John Raines, anything you'd like to share?
Good afternoon, everyone. John wrote me into this. So, Mayor, everybody else call you Doug, but I always called you Mayor. But a lot of good things have been said about you, and it's all well-deserved. I wrote down a couple things, how I know you as a leader. I've known Doug most of my life through my family. Grew up with my older sister. But I can remember as a college student dropping lit for his first freeholder campaign. And back then, when you dropped lit, you didn't get paid. But, I'm coming from a partisan's perspective because I am a partisan, as everyone know on here. But two municipal things that stick out in my mind about Doug Palmer. I met JB through Doug. The first campaign that I ran on the municipal side, we were all green as can be. We were taking on a two-time incumbent who happened to be council president. And surprise, surprise, we were stuck in the runoff. Doug Palmer, one of his greatest strengths is that he could see far down the road where other leaders couldn't. He knew this two-time incumbent that got stuck into the runoff with this political neophyte was in trouble. So on the low, by then, JB was out in Colorado. John comes back. He sends John to our headquarters, and John maps out a runoff campaign, what we needed to do, what markers we needed to hit, and we won. The night we won, Anthony Conti was city clerk. I was in the clerk's office with my candidate. When she found out we won, we went back to headquarters. Conti called Doug, because back then Doug ran the city. Doug made the former incumbent city council president come to our headquarters and concede personally, because it was a nasty campaign. Concede personally. Back then I didn't figure it out. But 2 minutes after the council president left, Doug pulls up and tells my candidate how much he wants to work with her. That's political foresight. Everything Andrew said is correct. But I'm gonna tell you people a couple things that weren't said today. Doug was a fantastic mayor. However, did you know that he had to work with Republicans, both at the state and county level, more than 10 years of his 20-year term? Granted, it helped that he had a great relationship with Bobby Pernetti, because they were both freeholders. But Bobby Pernetti was county exec majority of Doug's term. And Jim Florio was governor for one term, and so was John Corzine. But the majority of the time Doug was in office, Christine Todd Whitman and other Republicans were the governor. And if you look back in the 90s and the early 2000s, you'll see what Doug accomplished for this city. That takes foresight, that takes leadership, and that takes being able to be a partisan and not be a partisan. Some of y'all will get that on the way home.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
Lately, he's become a mentor and an advisor to the current crop of political leaders in this county and in this town. I go to him for advice. I know others. And some of the things he says, especially to the current political leadership that are trying to get Democrats elected, it's hard to hear. I know it's hard for me to hear. But he keeps it real, and he puts a historical perspective on it. My biggest frustration is people don't know why we have Doug Palmer. People don't know why we have a John Watson or a Jimmy Mitchell. Doug has taken a big role in these last 6 months to a year explaining to people, explaining to some of these Johnny-come-latelys. As JB would tell you, I keep it real. You know, why we do things, why people are here because they're here. Wrote a lot of notes, but, you know.
That's good. That's good.
Mayor,
you've done good.
I'm wrapping up now, John, okay? You let everybody else speak as long as they want, and I've been staying here for 3 hours. I'm talking my talk.
Then John, take another 15, 20 minutes if you want, man.
No, I'm good, baby. No, I just want to say, you know, I haven't been, you know, Andrew, everything Andrew said was true. And Andrew was Doug's right-hand man. I can't claim that. But what I can claim is a healthy respect between the two of us, where I recognize the good things he's done. And we haven't always been on the same issue, on the same side of most issues. You know, I could definitely identify with both Tracy and John. But the respect I have for him and the leadership that he has showed can be summed up in one word: admiration. Take care, Mr. Mayor, and I'm here for you. Thank you, John.
Thank you, buddy.
Hey, JB, one thing, because I knew that John was going to speak and the others, so I held this after he spoke. But his mother, Eleanor Raines, was a stalwart in the Democratic Party. A lot of people don't know that. Shirley does. I can remember, I grew up with his older brother, Richard, and his younger sister, older than him, Carol. And I can remember going in the house with his dad. His dad was in the living room. I can still see the living room. And Eleanor Raines was at the table looking at voter lists. She was doing all that kind of work. She was Harvey Stern's right-hand person. She inspired me a lot. And I'm so glad that of all her great children, wonderful children that are very involved in whether it's education, law, that John, got involved with politics. He was the baby. He got involved in politics. And your mom's proud of you, and I am too, because you are a Democrat, and you don't play. So I really appreciate that.
That's my man, man. That's my man, Mayor. Joyce Kersey, you still on the call? Joyce? Okay. Then I'm going to let, before we start wrapping up, I'll let one of Doug's best friends, if not his best friend on the planet, matter of fact, his only friend on the planet, Leighton Newland. Leighton, you got a couple things you want to say? L, are you still on the call? All right, well, he's walking the dog. Yeah, there you go. L.
Still on the call.
Yeah, come on, L. Well,
I'm really glad Leighton got on the call because he's out and about.
Well, you know, for those who don't know, Leighton is running for city council up in Princeton. And so, you know, y'all gonna hear a lot from this young brother. Leighton, we're gonna move on. Sorry to lose you there, but we're gonna move on. Before we get back to Sam, Janine, your final comments relative to Doug Palmer?
Yeah, my comments will be brief. I just want to say, Mayor, how proud I am to know you. I think when I met you, it was during the Republican reign in your life. And I remember asking folks as I saw you running this town, because I knew the mayor before you, and I was so shocked and amazed to hear that we had a Black mayor in the city of Trenton. When you walked into the room, and I knew Christine Todd Whitman, she just admired you. She respected you. And I became a part of her inner circle. And I started watching how you brought people together. It didn't matter whether folks were from the urban areas, whether they were from the suburbs. It didn't matter what their ethnicity was, what their gender was. There's something, I call it that that you have when you walk into the room. It's almost like people just want to like kiss the ring in a positive way. And I've seen quite a few mayors come and go after your reign here, and you reign. You didn't just serve as mayor of the city. You will always be the mayor of the city of Trenton. There aren't many people in a country where you hold an office for life. Like Bill Clinton will always be the president. You will always be Trenton's mayor. The only thing, as you know, that I've ever had a real problem with you about is that I don't know why my son applied to work in the city of Trenton and you hired him. I remember when he called me that day, he was so excited. He said, "Mom, I'm answering an ad. I'm going to apply for this job. Tell me what you think." And he begins to tell me about the job. And I said, "But Trenton?" He said, "Don't you know some people there that you could talk to?" I said, "I don't know, Sam. Trenton, he had just built this gorgeous home in the suburbs and no drama." And I'm like, "Why?" He said, "Don't you know the lady named Miss Bonnie Watson Coleman?" I said, "Well, I even know the mayor." And I remember I called Bonnie. She was on an island. They were on vacation. I said, "Good. I couldn't talk to her." I called you and you were on vacation. And Renee said, "Well, he's not going to be back for about 2 weeks." I said, "Good." So I was hoping, well, he's missed this chance that he wants. And I remember when I finally got you on the phone and I said, "Mayor, I'm calling you reluctantly. My son, I think he has applied for a job with you." And you said, "Yeah, he did." He said, "2 things wrong with him. First of all, his ties are better than mine. And secondly, he went to the wrong H university. He went to Howard and Hampton." He said, "But despite it all, I already told him he got the job." I'm like, "Oh my Lord, really? You hired him?" And I have to tell you, throughout the years, this guy, he was a much younger guy then when you hired him. He looked up to you like his dad. And I never wanted to see Sam in politics. But the way you mentored him, the way you would smack his hand when you thought he did something wrong, the way you put your arms around his shoulders when you thought, "Attaboy," I will never, ever, ever, ever forget it. Because there are a lot of things on the face of this planet that are really important to me, but there is nothing as important to me as my kids. So I'm glad to be a part of this honoring for you today. You're a legend. It's an honor that has come way too late. And I'm just glad that you accepted it and that you spent this time with us today. Keep coming back to the caucus. Your stories are making us all better, Thank you and congratulations.
And L, you know, we've been sitting here, Leighton, I'm talking to Leighton now, I call him L. L, we've been sitting here for the last hour, you know, feeding the fish. And Doug tells you all the time, don't feed the fish, man. Don't, you know, I don't want to hear that, but we've been feeding the fish. And so I'm going to ask you if you got some fish food that you want to put into the conversation as well. Leighton Newland, Doug's friend. L, or did you leave us again? No, you back. Okay. Take the mute button off. Take your mute button off. Leighton, take your mute button off.
Well, hey, you know,
We're going to miss him. We're going to miss him. Sam, then we're back to you to wrap it up.
Thanks, JB. Look, we've had a very full day. We've got a lot going on. What I do want to say to everyone is we will make this recording available. After Amani goes through it, he's actually going to pull everything out because we want a list of all the things, aspirational things that people have said about what they'd like to do. Leighton, I see you there. You got your mute off? Leighton? You put it back on.
Hello?
There
All
you
right.
go.
All right, Sam, we're going to...
Go ahead, Leighton.
L, go ahead, man.
Hey,
Come on, Bearded Wonder.
Listen, thank you, JB, and good afternoon, everyone. I'll be brief because I'm in the car. Doug Palmer, I guess the best way to describe our friendship is my nickname for him and our nickname for each other is Odie Oates. For those of you who have been on the call for a while and who are in excess of 65 years old, you probably remember the cartoon King Linus, and he had a true blue friend. He was a skunk, and his name was Odie Oates. And if you have a friend like Doug Palmer, who's been my friend for 69 years, we were born 3 days apart, you have got a friend for life, a loyal friend, the most generous and loving brother I quite frankly have ever met in my life. So Doug, from me to you, keep on keeping on. I love you, always have, always will. And I might also add that even though we were born 3 days apart, I would contribute a great deal of the success in my life to being his friend's oldest a long time and to watching him grow and to watching how he does everything he does. I have taken pages out of his book on any number of occasions, and I'm probably going to write a chapter tomorrow. Peace and blessings to you, my good brother. I love you, and keep on being the man that you are, and keep on making change and a difference in others' lives. Thank you.
And Doug,
thank you, my brother.
Send a check to his campaign. Send a check to his campaign tomorrow. Sam.
Thanks, JB. So this will be available to everyone. We're going to take some notes. We want to put together that whole listing of ideas because there was a lot that was laid out here. But the reality is that we need to do more of this. We need to be connected. It is the county, it's across the county that we do the work, but it's in each and every individual town that the work actually gets done. And so we have to make sure that we are connected in talking. The level of communication that we have is going to dictate the level of success that we're going to have. And so as we continue to track this, there's some opportunities that the Commissioner Board has in order to make sure that we are helping in each town. But we've got to be talking to you. And it's been my honor to talk to each and every one of the mayors that spoke here today. We've been in constant communication, some over the last week, but some over the last several months. And we've spoken more than I've spoken with them probably in the 10 years that I've been elected, because I would see them at certain places, but I wouldn't have to call them. So I'm grateful for the friendships and the relationships that I've built with these mayors, and we're going to keep on doing this work. Mayor Palmer, you will always be my favorite mayor. And I will always continue to pattern the work that I do for the people after the work that you did for the people. And so I'm grateful to have worked for you and with you. And I want to tell everybody, just have an incredible weekend. We're so glad that we got together today. JB, thank you for all the work that you do from Denver to make sure this gets put together the right way, brother.
Sounds good, Sam.
Thanks, JB. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, everybody, enjoy your day. Enjoy your Saturday. And we're going to leave us with Larry Carlton's song called Fingerprints. We put our fingerprints on this call today, and we thank you all for coming. So enjoy your day. In the words of the old Negro spiritual, y'all be good now, huh?
Yay, John Bailey.